How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
Some idea.
I am not completely like other people.
What do you mean by that?
People dislike me because I am not completely like them. I am trying to do with my life something which few people try to do, and this influences my thinking and consequently my action.
What is it you're trying to do with your life?
Play the piano for people.
I'm not clear. How is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.
is the end. There's a noise inside my head of crying people facing death. Is this the end? Is this the end? Oh, I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final scene. What have we done to the world? What have we done to the world? I'm burning in the dystopia. There's no place to hide. I'm burning in the dystopia. This is the final
James Lindsay is obsessed with lying to his audience. What crazy things can he get them to believe? He does it irresponsibly to pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory destabilizes normativity, gender binary, and the nuclear family. James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy. He used to believe in something. What happened? Mills for liberty. Gnostic sex cult, building his own world. A Gnostic sex cult, running it from reality. He's totally lost it. What can we do but mock him relentlessly? It's not a Gnostic sex cult, James. No, it's not. Stop lying to your audience. No, it's not. It's not Gnostic change. Mary Nardini tells us queer liberation means the annihilation of capitalism. Catch up, James. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. Queer theory hates capitalism. Whiteness means capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. Whoa. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's all about capitalism. Everyone knows it's capitalism. The socialists know it's capitalism. Wake up, James. It's capitalism. It's capitalism. To pocket all that money from the mills for liberty. The left hates capitalism, but James won't admit it. He refuses to believe queer theory stabilizes normativity, gender binary, and the nuclear family. But James blocks the truth, smears people who try to show him, creates an echo chamber for himself to reinforce his fantasy, to believe in something. stalk him relentlessly.
What up, everyone? It's Friday. Welcome. Happy Friday. And because it's Friday, I have beer. Hey. Not too bad, not too bad. Well, it's been a crazy week, hasn't it? I can't believe it's Friday. It really feels like it's like Tuesday to me, honestly. Where the week before Christmas, things are kind of wrapping up for the year. Yeah, I did hear that Candace Owens commented on Nick Fuentes, and that's good. She should have damn well commented yesterday. But it's good that she commented today. So, cheers to Candace Owens for doing the right thing. But I don't want to talk about her anymore. Listen, it's been a crazy week. I missed a couple streams this week. On Wednesday, I missed a stream because I basically wrote all day. I wrote like 5 chapters of my book on Wednesday. I published a whole bunch of them on the Substack. We're going to talk about that in a second. I'm really hunkering down, guys. The book is going to get done before the end of the year. I feel very confident about this now. I'm on a really good trajectory with the book I'm working on. We'll talk more about the book in a second. And I'm really kind of hunkering down and just shutting myself off in my office. And I said, Victor, you're not going to see me a lot from that because I'm going to write my book. And this is the mode that I get in when I'm finishing a book. This is how my books are written, okay? Is it kind of flits around for a while. I know I wanted to publish it earlier. I wanted to publish it to get it out by Christmas. That didn't quite work out, but that doesn't mean we can't have it out before the end of the year. This is how my book writing works. Is I flit around for a little while and I try a bunch of stuff and then I hate my book and then I throw away a bunch of stuff and then I come back to it and I take a break. I come back and then I rewrite everything, and then eventually, like right at the end, the big last push is I lock myself away and I don't talk to anyone for 2 weeks, and I finish the damn book. This is actually how the last 2 books have been written. The first book I ever wrote, it was my workplace book. It was about like mindfulness and in the workplace and stress reduction, all that stuff. And it's a really good book. It's called Zen Your Work. You should buy it. In my former life. But that's how that worked. I had like 6 months in between when I signed the book deal and when I had to deliver the book. And I wrote a bunch of stuff and I flitted around for a while. And then a month before the book, I actually went to Palm Springs, of all places. I went to Palm Springs and I sat at the bar at Lulu's, which is a restaurant right in downtown Palm Springs, with all the old gays. And Lulu's has happy hour starting at 11 a.m. And so I would go to Lulu's. I would sit my ass down at the bar for happy hour at 11 a.m., order some champagne and like some happy hour food, and happy hour went all day. And I sat there for several days in a row while I finished my book. And then with Actively Unwoke, which is the last book I wrote, I flitted around for a while. I wrote a bunch of stuff. I hated it. I threw it away. And then I ended up going to Los Angeles, of all places, and I locked myself in a hotel room in Beverly Hills. It was a nice hotel room, and I finished the damn book, okay? And so now I feel like it's like when someone's about to have a kid. Well, this is what I think. I don't have kids, but so I've heard. It's like when a mother is about to have a kid and she goes into a nesting phase. That's the stage I'm in right now with the book. I'm like, the door to the office is shut. Leave me alone. I'm finishing the book. It's like the final push to get the damn thing done. So that's why I canceled the stream on Wednesday, is I was in a book writing mood. And I sat here and I wrote all day. And then on Thursday, I was planning on pretty much doing exactly the same thing. And I did have a stream planned for Thursday. And we're going to watch one of the things that I had planned for Thursday today. And then Nick Fuentes almost got assassinated. Isn't that still a bizarre thing? Doesn't that feel like it's like separate from reality? Nick Fuentes almost got assassinated. We almost saw the last Nick Fuentes show of all time. And I watched it. I was like, Nick Fuentes, we could have woken up yesterday and found out that Nick Fuentes had done his last show. And what a gaping hole that would leave in the landscape for all of us. I mean, seriously, that's... And so that's kind of effed up. And so I canceled the stream yesterday because I was just on Twitter Spaces basically all day talking to the Groypers, talking about trying to figure out what was going on. I went on a bigger space with like Suleiman and a whole bunch of people, and we were talking about it. And I was basically on Twitter Spaces all day. And I'm sorry people missed the stream, but I'm sorry when Nick Fuentes almost getting assassinated took precedence. Okay. I did a stream last night kind of talking about some of my thoughts about it. And I don't really have much more to say about it, honestly. I've got a couple things. I've got one thing very specifically that I want to show you guys. But really today, I kind of just want to get back into the groove. I want to watch stuff that I want to watch that's going to help me research for the book. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Lotus Eaters commented on it too. Well, that's good. James Lindsay finally commented on it. So did Carrie Smith. We're going to look at that in a second. But for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about when I say the book, I am working on a book called Re-Education, the Definitive Anti-Communist Guide to Decoding the Left. I am self-publishing this book. Oh, by the way, so I have a whole bunch of things planned for this book, and I'm actually very excited about it. And you can go to speaksocialist.substack.com to find out more about it. And I recommend starting over here with the introduction. It's right on the upper left-hand corner. It's called Re-Education, the Definitive Anti-Communist Guide to Decoding the Left. Now, this is going to be my third book. It's going to be the first book that I self-publish. And I felt very strongly about self-publishing this book because, quite frankly, I've worked with quote-unquote real publishing houses for the last 2 books, and I don't like it. And the thing about real publishing houses is that there's a couple benefits to working with real publishing houses, right? You're going to get professional editors that are going to go through your book with a fine-tooth comb and like make sure it's all cleaned up and make sure the style is in order and all that stuff. And that's really something I need because I am a shitty copy editor. But guess what? AI can do that now. I can literally use AI to do that, and I've been using AI to do that. And although AI isn't perfect, it's really, really good. And so I'm not using AI to write the content for the book. I'm writing the content for the book, and I would never use AI to actually just like write the content. But I am using AI in terms of copy editing, stylistically editing some stuff, and making sure everything's consistent. Now, there are some chapters in the book that I do have to go back and reformat that were written earlier. That's okay, though, because the AI is going to help with that. That's one of the big advantages of going with a publishing house is they take care of all that shit for you. The other big advantage is they do the design work on the book, they get it out there and distribute it and stuff like that. But guess what? We can do all that stuff now anyway. And Amazon is where the vast majority of books are sold now anyway. And to be quite frank, I kind of got effed over massively by my last book publisher with the audiobook. And I just don't want to go through that again. For people who know, they know that my last book publisher gave my audiobook, which was about defeating the left, to a leftist to read. That was a nightmare that I'm never going to recover from. So I decided I'm only doing self-publishing from now on. And one of the exciting things about that is that I have to technically start my own publishing house in order to like self-publish books. So you have to say like it's from blank blank press or blank blank publishing when you self-publish it, right? Well, guess what? I picked out a name for my publishing house. I was originally just gonna do Unwoke Publishing or Unwoke Books or something like that, because like I kind of had this like Unwoke brand, but I'm kind of starting to move away from that a little bit. I do like it, don't get me wrong. The Unwoke art store is not going anywhere. I mean, the alliteration is great. Actively unwoke, I still stand behind that. There are a lot of like unwoke things that I've done, and I like that whole thing, but I'm kind of starting to branch out from that. And so I picked out a name for my publishing house, and I'm very excited about it, and it's going to be called Red Menace Press. And it might seem like a silly thing, but I'm really excited about that name, Red Menace, and the symbol of it's going to be a plague doctor. It's going to be this specific plague doctor. I don't know if we can see this. Hang on. Can we see my plague doctor? You guys know I have a whole bunch of plague doctor designs. Well, I guess you can't really see it that well, but like, but that's gonna be the logo for the publishing house. Red Menace Press, and I've got the .com, and I've got the website, and all that good stuff. And so I mean, it's a little thing, right? But I'm actually really excited about the name. I thought that was a great name. So that's what it's going to be called. And along with the book, I'm going to be building a companion website for the book. So basically the premise of the book is I've got all these short chapters. You can see, you can go on speaksocialist.substack.com, where you can actually, one of the benefits of publishing the book myself is I get to do whatever the flip I want, okay? And so what I've decided to do is I'm actually releasing the chapters as I write them. Another complaint I have with real publishing houses, quote unquote real publishing houses, is that the time period between when you finish the book and when the book actually gets published is like 18 months to 2 years. That's insane, okay? So for example, with my last book, Actively Unwoke, I finished my last book at the beginning of 2021. It didn't get published until May of 2022, which was actually an expedited timeline. Like, really think about that. I was writing a book about current events, okay, that were happening at the end of 2021. It didn't get out into the public until over a year later, over a year after I finished it. And that's way too long. And again, that's the expedited timeline. Usually my first book, I think it was a full 18. When did I finish? I think it was a full 18 months from when I finished my first book until when it actually got published. And I'm just not willing to wait that long. And so what I decided to do was to write the draft chapters on this other Substack. This is a premium Substack. This is separate from my normal one, speaksocialist.substack.com. And that way you guys can actually read the chapters as I'm writing them. And some of the chapters are going to have to be revised. So these are draft chapters, and I am going to have to go back and fix some stuff. But you guys at least get access to the content as it's being written, so no one has to wait for it. And this is how the book is being funded. I'm not going to some publishing house asking them to advance me money. I'm going to you guys and I'm saying, I will show you the draft chapters of the book as it's being written. In return, if you want to read those, I'm asking you to fund the book by signing up for the Substack for $10 a month or $100 a year, because it's a premium Substack. Okay? And actually, one of the things I learned, did you guys know that you can have Substack like audio read these things from now? I don't know exactly how you do it. Is it this? Hang on. Is it this? Oh, it's for paid subscribers only. Okay, guys, did you know that if you're a paid subscriber on Substack, you can actually have the Substack read the entries for you now? I literally just found this out the other day. Let's go over to my main Substack and let's see if I can get it to work. Hang on. Substack Reader. So check this out. Check this out. They just added this. It's actually kind of cool. So I have been recording audio versions of the book, and I'm going to still be doing that for the podcast. But guess what? You don't even have to wait for me to record an audio version anymore. Just go to it and click Substack Reader. Check this out. It records an audiobook. Just automatically.
Read my next book before it's published. Unlock exclusive access to draft chapters of RE Education, the ultimate anti-communist guide to...
Isn't that cool? There's an automatic audiobook option now for paid subscribers on Substack, on the regular one, on the Speak Socialist one. So that's kind of cool, and I can go in and I can change the voice and stuff. So Substack for the win. Again, I thought that was a really cool feature. I have been doing a podcast on speaksocialist.substack.com, kind of giving behind the scenes stuff, reading the chapters myself. That's also included on there. And so anyway, if you guys want to fund the book that I'm writing right now, head over there and you can do that. And of course, you can sign up for $10 a month, $100 a year. If you sign up for the founding membership, which is $250 a year, you can pick out a free t-shirt in my Unwoke art store. You can find out more information about that. But anyway, I'm building a companion website to this where you can go in, read the chapters. The chapters are about 500 to 1,000 words long, typically more towards the 500 than the 1,000 words, but there are some that just needed to be longer. And what I'm going to be doing on the companion website, and the companion website is going to be like, it's going to be called it's going to be decodetheleft.com. Yes, Jude, I got it. I've gotten everyone's that's put them in so far. I just haven't sent them out yet. But yeah, I have been getting the orders in, and I do appreciate it. is I'm going to be building a companion website where you can go into the website based on the chapter and actually find like video clips and evidence and documentation to back up what I say in the chapter. So one of the difficult things about writing this book has been I'm not really showing the evidence. I'm not really showing the receipts. And you guys know I'm kind of like the queen of the receipts on this stuff, where I always have receipts for everything I say. Well, you can't put video receipts in a book. This is going to be a physical book at some point. And so I'm building a companion website. It may not be up by the beginning of the year because it's going to be a little bit more difficult, but there is eventually going to be a place where people can go in by chapter and find the receipts for everything that I say in this book, which is interesting because check this out. So yesterday on my Twitter page and on my Substack, I kind of put up this little promo, and it's pinned to the top of my Twitter, and it said, read my next book before it's published, and with a picture of me, and giving people that information. Well, our friend, Psycho Frank McCormick, who is James Lindsay's lapdog, James Lindsay's, I don't even know what the hell Frank is. Frank decided to Photoshop my photo to make me look fat. And, saying the book is coming to a bargain bin near you. Well, probably not, but okay. And then what was funny is, do you guys remember Angela? Do you guys remember this Angela woman? She was on Rabbi Shmuley's show, not Rabbi Shmuley. She was on Rabbi Barclay's show with James. Does anyone remember when James got interviewed by a rabbi about the woke right? Well, this Angela woman was on that show with James, and she's Jewish, of course. Yup, this is the Jew that was on the Rabbi Barclay show with James, where James said what he said about Mein Kampf. And so the Jewess, as I call her the Jewess. I almost want to read it to see how incoherent it is, but I do not have that kind of time. And then Psycho Frank says, it's 90% about James Lindsay. Now, for those of you who have been reading the chapters in my book, do I even mention James Lindsay at all? Why would I mention James Lindsay? I'm talking about the radical revolutionary left. I'm talking about things that James Lindsay doesn't even know about. And then the Jewess responds again. Did she write another fantasy novella? Because let me tell you, that last one was insane. Now, the Jewess claims to be an investigative journalist. Did I write the fan fiction? No, I didn't. The Jewess is a really shitty investigative journalist, I'll tell you that. But what was funny about this, and I got to give a shout out to Dragon Tail, who sometimes goes as Dragon Balls in my chat. Dragon Tail responded to the Jewess, and he said, if you don't have that kind of time, then you care nothing about the future of our republic. I recommend reading it before criticizing it. And the Jewess, because remember, the Jewess is just such an amazing investigative journalist, guys. The Jewess says, LOL, is that one of your alts, Carolyn? Doesn't even know how to spell my name correctly. Great investigative journalism, Jewess. No thanks. And then Dragon Tail, in all of his glory, in all of his gorgeous manhood glory, responds to the Jewess with a video. Check this out.
No, this is not one of Carlin's alt accounts. Carlin has actual supporters. And so no, I'm not an alt account. If you were an investigative journalist, maybe you might know that, but maybe you're limited in your resources and ability to do that. And I would take the time to read her book. It actually matters. If you want to know about socialism, queer anarcho-communism, Carlin has spent thousands of hours doing deep dives into these things. And if you're an investigative journalist, as you say you are in your bio, then I would challenge you to investigate the things that she's bringing forth as truth. It's not about James Lindsay, by the way, unless there's something in there about debunking, which so far it's not been the focal point of the chapters. I support her on her Substack. So you can call me a simp, you can call me a shill. I find that I'm neither. I know maybe some people think we're all Hitler-loving Jew haters, which I am neither. So, yeah, continue to make fun of, I guess, her appearance and her tone and how she looks and sounds, whatever. Maybe now you can make fun of me for those things and give her a little break. But to answer your question, no, this is not an alt account for Carlin.
See, every time people actually defend me online, the response is, "You're just Carlin running an alt account." I don't I mean, I don't know how many alt accounts these people think I have. But shout out to Dragon Tail / Dragon Balls. I really appreciate you, bro. That video was amazing. Amazing supporter. And by the way, for anyone who says he's a simp, he's literally gay. He doesn't want me. He doesn't want me. He's gay. Yeah, you are all me. You are all me. And then the Jewess responded. She said, "Sorry, my investigative journalism is based on exposing Muslim Brotherhood organizations within America, not Carolyn." Again, she doesn't even know how to spell my name. "Her many alt accounts and her simp followers." Again, gay. It's gay. It's gay. And then Dragon Tail responds, "No apology necessary because he's taken the high road, because we always maintain the high road here. I find it interesting to assume the incoherency of a book you never intend to read and a topic you have no investigative expertise on. You never answered my question about your claim, Carlin's many alt accounts. How many have you uncovered?" That's a really great question. How many alt accounts of mine has the Jewess uncovered? How many exactly? Then we got Judy confirmed in here. Confirmed. I've been on Zoom calls with both Carlin and Dragon Tail at the same time with cameras on. Yeah, truth. Why do they keep fucking up my name? Because the Jewess is a really shitty investigative journalist. That's why. So this is the best that James Lindsay's supporters have. I'm on videos 6 days a week and they think people don't know what I look like. All right. But let me just show you one more thing before we dig into the content for today, because I did mention that James did finally comment on the whole Nick Fuentes almost getting assassinated thing. And James says, "I don't like him or agree with anything he says, but I'm honestly glad Nick Fuentes is okay. I condemn all such behavior unequivocally for everyone." You know James was gritting his teeth when he said that too. He's like, "Just because I've been shitting on Nick Fuentes nonstop for months and months and months for no good reason, that doesn't mean I wanted him to die." But you know what the great part was? That who swoops in? Who swoops into the replies? Karen Smith, a woman who became obsessed with me over 4 years ago, a woman who went around the internet telling everyone and their mother I had borderline personality disorder when I've only talked to this woman like 3 or 4 times in my entire life, a woman who has said every nasty thing about me a person can possibly say on the internet. What did Carrie say when James was like, "Yeah, it's probably a good thing Nick Fuentes didn't get offed"? You know, credit to James for that. You know, he probably took some humbling of himself to post that tweet. So credit to him for that. Carrie swoops in response. Remember, she's a good Christian guy. She says, "Don't let him manipulate you into thinking that he was targeted. This was a triple murder suspect who was looking for a home to hide in. He went to a different one after Nick's, where he gained access and killed 2 dogs. I'll wait for more info from the authorities. Sure as hell don't trust Fuentes." Well, you know, that's funny, Carrie. That's funny. Because young Nicholas actually posted video from earlier today of the guy that shot him, or not, that wanted to shoot him, thankfully didn't shoot him, but the guy that showed up to shoot him actually casing his house to try to figure out another way in. So it's not like he just showed up in Nick's house, and it was just like a random thing. He knew exactly what he was doing. He was trying to figure out a way in. And then, of course, we know from the video from the previous day, where in this video, and I'll put the sound up for a second for people who haven't seen it. In this video, The guy actually says Nick's name. So hang on, just in case you haven't heard it.
Yo, Nick.
Yeah, he was just trying to find a way to get into Hyde, Carrie. He was just trying to find a way to get into Hyde. Then why did he stand outside of Nick's door after going around the house looking for multiple ways in and, like, yell his name? He was just looking for a place to hide? Good Christian? He was just looking for a place to hide? Nah. But that's the type of stuff you get, guys. That's the type of stuff you get with these evil, 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 evil women. And occasionally men too, who just want to be famous on the internet. This is the response. Some guy shows up to shoot him, calls out his name. And this is the problem with people like this on the internet. They ignore video evidence. They ignore primary source evidence. That's my criticism of James. James ignores primary source evidence on everything. He just pretends it's not there. And so what did James's sycophants like Karen Smith do? They ignore primary source evidence too, and they say, this wasn't even about Nick Fuentes, so we don't have to feel sorry for him because he is an untrustworthy neo-Nazi white supremacist. Carrie's basically a leftist. You guys understand that, right? Carrie is a leftist. James is a leftist. This is why I don't get along with them. I'm not a leftist. I actually never was a leftist. I was more like a centrist, like moderate Democrat. I never claimed these people. Anyway. So that's some of the gossip that's been going on. But you know what's funny is the reason I bring James up is James has been, of course, James recently perpetrated a hoax claiming he rewrote the Communist Manifesto and then submitted it to a Christian nationalist publication. And then, oh my God, the Christian nationalist publication published the Communist Manifesto, bro. That proves that the far right are really communist in disguise. But because of James's hoax, he's been saying, maybe I should do a podcast reading the Communist Manifesto. Maybe it's time I do another podcast analyzing the Communist Manifesto. Well, I'm going to give you guys one better today. Because we're going to turn to one of our favorite communist organizations, the Denver Communists. The reason we love the Denver Communists is they've got a ton of videos, and they say the quiet part out loud about what they believe all the time in these videos. And they're actually relatively easy to understand. And for people who are newer to watching socialism, it's kind of a good entry point because it's not overly complicated. It's not overly academic. They've got a lot of topics that they cover. And so I went through and I found that the Denver Communists have not one, but 2 videos analyzing the Communist Manifesto. And so instead of listening to James Lindsay pontificate about Gnosticism while reading the Communist Manifesto, I thought that why don't we just watch communists talk about the Communist Manifesto and listen to what communists are teaching other communists in the real world about the Communist Manifesto? Why don't we just do that? And before, this has 17 views. No one's watched this shit. And before you guys say, this only has 17 views, that means it's not impactful. These guys do organizing calls that have way more people on the organizing calls than they have views on the internet. It's just the way it goes. These people organize in real life, and then we're very lucky when we can find their stuff on the internet. So instead of listening to James Lindsay pontificate about the Communist Manifesto, we're going to listen to communists talk about the Communist Manifesto. But I've got one other thing before we get into that, and it's not the beer, so I guess I actually have 2 other things. I also have this, and I wanted to watch this yesterday. I found this video, the queer 90s zine that fought Fatphobia. So as you guys know, I'm getting really into like analyzing queer zines, and queer zines like have been around for decades now, but no one's really dug into them. In fact, the next book I want to write after I finish Reeducation is I want to go back and analyze the development of queer as an anti-capitalist ideology, looking at queer anarcho-communist subculture, looking at these queer zines, actually talking about them in a significant way, because no one that I can find has actually done this analysis. This is a topic that has been completely ignored, and this is the thing that's driving queer activism in the world today. This is the thing that's driving gender ideology. This is the thing that's driving abolish the family, fat studies, disability studies, all of these crazy kind of cultural Marxist things. It's all coming from this subculture. So I found this video about a queer zine in the 90s about Fatphobia, and I want to watch it. So we're going to do the Fatphobia one, and Fatphobia is always crazy. And you guys think the fat studies just popped up out of nowhere? No, they were talking about it in the 90s, maybe even earlier. I guess we're going to find out. So I want to watch this video, and then I want to watch Communist Manifesto Part 1 and 2, and that's what we're going to do today. Does anyone have any objections to that? Is anyone new to this stuff? Is anyone new to watching socialism with me in the chat? Do let us know if you're new. Now, this is happy hour, so before we get into that, I need a beer. And I think I know which beer you guys are going to pick today. You guys get to pick out which beer I drink first. Yeah, it's AI. Carrie, probably. Yeah, I'm sure Carrie's going to say those videos of Nick, an assassin on Nick's doorstep are all AI. Hey, welcome, Midlife Bro Logic. We're really glad to have you here. Anyone else new in the chat that's watching socialism with me for the first time today? The reason we ask if people are new, guys, is because we need to take care of our new people. Watching socialism for the first time can be a little bit weird and a little bit confusing. And so we like to know who's new so we can help you guys along, honestly. Has Jordan Peterson, the guy who called Nick Fuentes a rat, commented yet? You know, I haven't looked into that in a or two. I have not looked into that at all, but maybe we should look into that. So, because it's Friday, I went and just got 4 beers at the craft beer store. And what I do is I tell you guys about the beer, and you guys get to vote on which beer I drink first. And I'm not going to drink all 4 on the stream or anything like that, but I'll probably drink 1, maybe 2, depending on how long it goes. And that way you guys can learn about new beer, because I think everyone should be into craft beer. Craft beer is the best. Craft beer is the greatest. We live in the greatest time in the history of the world for beer. We're not talking about Bud Light or Coors Light, and certainly not Miller High Life. F that stuff. We're talking about the good stuff. So, the first beer in the beer poll today is called Kampai. And this is really simple. This is a rice lager. It's not a Japanese beer, though. This is out of Bethlehem, New Hampshire. Indeed, there is a Bethlehem, New Hampshire. And this is going to be a rice lager. The reason I like rice lagers is they tend to be kind of like really light and crisp and just kind of refreshing. So I picked that one up. That's our first option for beer today. The second one I'm just really kind of intrigued by. It's called Hang 2. And it's an Australian sparkling ale. What the heck is an Australian sparkling ale? Well, let me read the can. This Australian ale is a collaboration between ourselves and our best friends at To Share Brewing in Manchester. So this is also brewed in Manchester. This is from Feathered Friends Brewing in Concord. This beer is influenced by the bubbly, sparkling personality of their co-founder, Jenny. Oh, a woman made this beer, I'll tell you that. And so I guess there's not really much anymore about it. They're just talking about Jenny, and they're donating $1 of these from each beer to cancer research. So that's kind of cool. Australian sparkling beer. Option 2. Option 3 is called Don't Call Me Honey. And this is from the same brewing company that did the rice beer. Actually, I can take my glasses off again. This is a honey hibiscus saison. And so this is going to be more of like this is 8%, so this is more alcoholic. Saisons are like Belgians. They're usually a little bit more complex in terms of their flavor. But I do like honey in beer. Pretty much anytime I see a honey beer, it's going to be something I drink. So I'm not going to read the description. This is a honey ale with a farmhouse saison, which is going to be good. But the piece de resistance. How many of you are fans of the movie The Sandlot? I gotta admit, okay, this might be old. If you're young, maybe you haven't even seen this movie. The Sandlot was a movie from my childhood. The Sandlot is iconic. If you've never seen The Sandlot, you're missing out. And now, from Branch Blade Brewing Company I think they're in Manchester. They're definitely in New Hampshire. Where is I think, where are they from? Keene. They're in Keene, New Hampshire. You're killing me, Smalls. The Sandlot has its own beer. And this is going to be a s'mores stout. S'mores stout. You're killing me, Smalls. Okay? So those are our 4 beers for the day. I'm going to put the poll in the chat. You guys get to pick out which beer I drink first, and then we're going to get into the show. Again, we got our rice lager. We got our honey ale. We got our Australian sparkling ale by a woman, obviously. And then we've got You're Killing Me, Smalls. Let me know which one you want me to drink in the chat, and let me pull up the Fatphobia zine before we get the vote in. As a reminder, guys, do make sure you subscribe to my channel. Make sure you've mounted that like button. And if you haven't checked out my Speak Socialist Substack where I'm writing my new book, I really do hope you guys will check that out. That's a really long little ticker at the bottom, but, you know, whatever. Whatever. Actually, let me just make that ticker a little bit shorter. Hang on. That's a little bit better. That's a little bit better. Check out speaksocialist.substack.com if you want to check out my book. The red menace sounds kind of socialist. No, it doesn't sound socialist. Red means socialist. Menace means against, bad. So I guess we're going to have to agree to disagree on that. I don't think it sounds socialist. I think it sounds anti-communist at best. It's saying that socialism is bad. It's saying that red is a menace. And it's a cool name. All right, let me see who you voted for. And no surprise there, we're going for the s'mores stout. And in anticipation of that, I did bring up my snifter today. Hang on. In anticipation that you guys were going to pick this one out, I brought up my snifter. Now it's a pumpkin snifter. This isn't a pumpkin beer. But no, you're not learning how to be a communist here. No. No. That's not real. I sprayed beer all over my face. We're going to get this beer poured into a nice snifter. If you guys are drinking anything fun for happy hour, let us know. Look how delicious that looks. Cheers, guys. Cheers. Cheers. All right. We are starting first today. This is going to be a video about a queer zine from the 90s. And so I don't really know what to expect here. But we're going to see what it is, and then we'll move into our analysis of communists, talking about the Communist Manifesto a little bit after that. And yeah, so this is not where you learn how to be a communist. That is not a correct analysis of the situation. This is where you learn how to recognize it. This is where we listen to real communists and socialists. We listen to the real far left so we can understand their language, so we can break down what their strategies are, so we can learn to identify it in the real world. The only way you can defeat your enemy is by understanding them. And the right does not understand their enemy. The right does not understand who they're actually fighting because they don't listen to them. So that's what we're doing here. All right, let's tune into this video and find out what's what. Oh no, I will be using the word dyke.
I eat too much. Too often.
When I get nervous, I eat, and when I'm depressed, I eat, and I just eat anytime.
My weight problem is sort of like an iceberg's. Most of it's at the bottom.
Well, I don't like myself fat. I really, in fact, I could say I hate myself, and I feel really self-conscious around other people. I feel like everyone's watching me, and I feel like, you know, a fat person just isn't lovable.
So what were they telling you, Claudia?
That's sad.
Your big sister's a fat slob.
A house 70s.
In 1971, Brigham Young University produced the show The Fat Fighters, which features a group of 9 overweight women who together undergo weight loss therapy. Most of the women some of whom hardly seem overweight at all, are cripplingly insecure of their weight. The show takes an outdated approach to weight loss, shaming the women's lack of self-control and encouraging increased dating in order to boost their poor self-image through validation from potential male partners. The show is shot through a banal lens, showing the women acting out in stereotypical scenes, out of breath while climbing the stairs, sneaking to the fridge at night, and giving up on exercise in order to reach into a bag of potato chips. Despite shame being consistently proven to be a negative and unsuccessful motivator, the women's friends, family, and even strangers are involved in the scenes too, all of whom exist as this voice of shame.
What's for dinner?
I don't know. Let's go to the Red Steer.
I just came back from there.
Then why do you want to go out to dinner?
Well, I was thinking I made a cake. Do you want to...
Ruth, how can you do this to yourself? And me, I'm going to be as fat as you are.
Mama, where are all the donuts?
Well, sweetheart, they're all gone.
But there were lots of donuts.
We'll get some more, okay, honey?
This show, only one of many, have shaped and influenced entire generations' ways of thinking about weight and how fat people should be treated. Fat Fighters unfortunately represented the mainstream narrative, with the show's own doctor stating,
"Overweight people tend to be dishonest, inconsistent, and irresponsible."
In the mid-90s, Fat Girl aimed to take back control of that narrative.
Oh, here we are. So, notice the punk music? Because what we're watching right now is a movie about a zine, okay? Zines are a tool that a lot of leftists use, particularly in these queer anarcho-communist subcultures, as a method of propaganda. They create zines. These are little self-published, kind of like handmade, like magazines or whatever that they create themselves. They publish them in small batches. They hand them out. They're like flyers and pamphlets. You hand them out at bookstores, coffee shops, things like that. Zines were from punk subculture. At some point, and I think it happened in the 80s, I'm not positive about that. I'm thinking like the early 80s, the queer subculture, the queer anarcho-communist subculture and punk subculture started merging. Okay? So queer basically co-opted punk. That's why punk sucks now, by the way. Punk used to be awesome. Now punk sucks. Why does punk suck? Because queer co-opted punk. And they started using it for their own purposes. And so anytime you're talking about zines, you're going to have an inherent reference to punk subculture because that's where this came from. Okay, so... And by the way, we're going to be making our own zine next year. This is one of the projects I have on. We're actually going to be doing an unwoke zine. I have a whole plan for this. I've got to post about it on the Substack. There are people in the community that are going to be working on this. Anyone's welcome to get involved. We're actually going to be making a print zine that's going, and by the way, zines are still used to recruit leftists today. They actually teach kids how to make zines in middle school and high school. There are entire classes around this stuff. This is actually something that they still use today that's highly effective. These are things that become collectibles within these subcultures. So my position is I want to basically rip off their idea and I want to make anti-communist zines, and we've got a lot of cool stuff. Yeah, there are whole conferences around zines, and a lot of people don't know about this stuff because it's not on Twitter, right? But this is actually a thing, and we're going to make our own anti-communist zine. It's going to be called The Cult, just like my show, and we're going to have a different theme. I'm going to try to produce 6 of them next year. There's going to be more information coming out about this. People can they're going to be able to download a digital copy, and what we're going to be able to do is create the zine in a way where we're giving people basically flyers that they can print off, go put them on college campuses, go put them in coffee shops, go put them in bookstores. We're going back old school with this now. Because I don't think that trying to appeal to like the Twitter influencer sect is actually going to solve this problem, because none of them have any desire to understand it. So we're going back to like the old school organizing methods that were not only used to build the far left, but are still being used today and are still highly effective today. We're going to create our own propaganda. It's going to look like leftist propaganda. It's going to probably really piss off the left once they figure this stuff out. And I think it's going to be great. And we're going to do campaigns. We're going to go to college campuses. We're going to hang this stuff up. We're going to do stickering campaigns. I wanted to do this for a long time. We're going to go to coffee coffee shops and leave this shit around. We're going to go to music stores, bookstores, dispensaries, shows, whatever it is. We're doing like a subcultural thing, and it's going to be cool. So a zine is an independent, not-for-profit self-publication. The name zine comes from an aberration of punk-era fanzine, itself a corruption of magazine, which itself dates from post-war Hollywood. Nerd2, I saw Nick is looking to sue anyone who tweeted his address, and now people are freaking out and deleting evidence as Gabs sue their drawers off. Yeah, Nick should also sue Elon Musk. I did see that. Thanks, Nerd2.
In the first issue of Fat Girl, founding member
Fat
Max
Girl.
Airborne gives a tender insight into their experiences growing up as a fat child in the era of the fat fighters. I was a fat kid. I learned that I was a blob. I became associated with the other blobs. When I was 8...
So you guys know how there are these conferences for fat people now that they can go to where they can buy flat clothes. There are these presentations all about Fatphobia. This all came from this subculture. All of the point I want to make about zines is the zines and this punk, anarcho-communist, queer subculture thing that started bubbling up in the 80s and the 90s. This is what influenced all of the craziest shit that we see coming from the left. So anytime you hear someone talk about fatphobia, this was the first time fatphobia was talked about. It was in a queer zine in the 90s. And this is the stuff that's influencing the activists today. Fat activists are not influenced by Marx and Hegel and Adorno and Horkheimer. They're not influenced by that stuff. They're influenced by this. This is where they come. That's why we need to analyze where these ideas are coming from, because that's how we can predict what they're going to do.
I reached my mother's ideal weight. Good dear, you'll be a perfect grown-up if you never gain another pound. Gee, I sure didn't feel perfect. They tried to free the skinny girl inside of me, but they couldn't find her. I retreated inward. I wanted to find her too. I figured out the problem. She ain't skinny. Max's experiences are tenderly conveyed throughout many issues of Fat Girl.
So maybe this is like the first fat acceptance document that was ever created.
Often in comic form. Light-hearted and clever, with thought-provoking undertones, Max speaks candidly about their experiences as a fat person. In this comic, Max provides a solution to living in a world you don't fit in, and here they illustrate their family's generational trauma surrounding weight, with Max vowing to be the one to end it all. Most poignant of all, in this collage, Max includes their 8-year-old self on a page titled, Women I'd Like to Meet. So what was Fat Girl actually all about? Well, Fat Girl was a self-published zine created by a collective of fat, queer, and lesbian women.
It was created by a collective of fat, queer, and lesbian women. Hang on.
So what was Fat Girl actually all about? Well, Fat Girl was a
That's queer. You got the armpit hair. You know? Again, this is in the 90s. This was before all the fat phobia, fat acceptance, body positivity stuff today. This was like the origin point of these ideas.
Self-published zine created by a collective of fat, queer, and lesbian women, with some members now identifying as non-binary.
Oh!
Published from
and now they identify as non-binary. Why is that? Because the goal of queer is to abolish a gender binary, and non-binary literally means no binary.
1994 to 1997, 7 zines were released in total. The zine aimed to provide an alternative to women's magazines which recommended quick, light meals you can make in only 3 minutes. The zine was political, funny, and perverse, following the narrative, if you don't see yourself, do it yourself, with Fat Girl's primary aim to provide visibility for fat women who were virtually unseen in mainstream media, let alone portrayed in a positive light. The zine featured a combination of smut and political commentary, advice columns, debates.
Do you guys remember how I used to say that all fat activists are also amateur porn stars? Oh, Bot, you found it? It's all online. Holy shit. I used to tell people when we would look at like fat activism content that all fat activists are also amateur porn stars. It's just like, it's one of those things where if you go down the rabbit hole and you start investigating them, eventually you're going to end up on Pornhub and you're going to see things you don't want to see. I have seen things from fat activists that have deeply, 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 deeply traumatized me. But look at this. In the original fat activist zine, they literally had fucking porn. How crazy is that? I once asked James Lindsay, and this was back when James and I were on good terms. This was back in 2021 before James lost his fucking mind. And you can probably still find the tweets. I actually asked him, James, why are all fat activists porn stars? James, of course, had no fucking idea why all fat activists were porn stars. The reason that all fat activists are porn stars is because this is the origin point of fucking fat activism. October 1994. That's crazy. Yeah, this is not the first time we've seen fat porn on this channel, sadly. Because all fat activists are porn stars. All of them.
A combination of smut and political commentary, advice columns, debates, fat history, recipes, reviews, poetry, and many resources on events and organizations. Max insisted that the zine was produced in the spirit of a collective enterprise, rather than by a hierarchy or lone individual, in order for the zine to benefit.
It was produced as a collective enterprise, rather than as a hierarchy or a lone individual. What do socialists want to get rid of? What do communists want to get rid of? What is the number one enemy of the communist? Hierarchy. Communists want to abolish all hierarchy. Hierarchy is haves versus have-nots. It's oppressor versus oppressed. The goal of instituting communism, equity. Equity is about leveling the hierarchy. It's about everyone being on the same level. What did it just say?
Organizations. Max insisted that the zine was produced in the spirit of a collective enterprise, rather than by a hierarchy or lone individual.
Yup, and they also believe, great point, Tolkien fan, socialists and communists believe that all hierarchies are created by capitalism.
In order for the zine to benefit from a wide variety of different voices. The founding collective comprised of April Miller, Barb Barbarism, Bertha Pearl, Candida Albicans, Max Airborne, Laura Johnston, Selena, and Oso. After issue 4, the collective changed to April Miller, Bertha Pearl.
Hang on. Rationalist, you've been asking some great questions lately. I really appreciate you. Speaking of pornography, I was wondering if these socialist activists have a unified view on porn. Oh, yeah, they do. Because I know some feminists are against it, but some are also sex positive. We need to watch, one of the areas that I need to watch that I haven't watched enough communism on is about sex work. Communists and socialists and queer people especially are extremely pro sex work. Extremely pro. So like, when you're talking about feminists, you have to distinguish between second wave feminism and third wave feminism. TERFs usually come from second wave feminism. Those are the people that are like, trans women are not women and they're all against porn and they all look like butch lesbians and that sort of thing. Queer people are third wave feminism. So queer people, extremely pro sex work, extremely sex positive. They want all relationships to be polyamorous, which is like more than one person in a relationship. By the way, not all polyamorous people are socialists, but an awful lot of socialists and queer activists especially are polyamorous. So it's not one of those things you can say just because a person is polyamorous, they're a communist. That's not true. But there are an awful lot of communists who are polyamorous because they want a queer relationships. That's actually called like relationship anarchy. It's queer. They don't like monogamous relationships, okay? So extremely pro porn, extremely pro sex work. You can see it in this zine. Like they're like I said, fat activists are literally all porn stars. All of them.
Laura Johnston, Margot, Sondra, Oso, Selena, and Susanna. And it's evident throughout the zines that many women contributed on an ad hoc basis. The collective stated that producing the magazine opened up a conversation. It was a place that brought together fat dykes from all walks of life. As put by April Miller, It's the combination of all of our experiences, different from each other and the same, that creates the richness of the zine.
Her problem, as with the others, is not only a weight adjustment, but primarily a personal adjustment.
Fat Girl was produced in the mid-1990s in the Bay Area, California, which the collective described as a hotbed for self-publishing at the time.
True. There's a lot of stuff that came out of there.
Queer cultural historian Cookie Woolner describes the 90s as...
Wait. Queer cultural historian? Hang on.
Queer cultural historian Cookie Woolner.
Can we look up Cookie Woolner? Queer cultural historian Cookie Woolner? Because I want to see what they have to say about queer culture and history. Because I'm going to use it to analyze them.
Describes the 90s as...
So we're in the early 90s, right? We do have this kind of
what is
explosion
this?
Of kind of mainstream queer.
Cookie Woolner. It's Woolner. When were they on a Zoom call? We need to find this Zoom call and watch it. I'm taking a screenshot. Thank you, Bot. This is why Bot is our chief investigative officer. She finds everything for us. Perfect. Thank you, Bot. That's exactly what I was looking for.
Visibility, with folks like Ellen going on, but it's also really the era, we've got grunge, heroin chic, Kate Moss, like very, very thin supermodels, right? We still have this kind of like ongoing 1980s fitness craze. Plastic surgery and liposuction are now taking off. We have books like Naomi Wolf's Beauty Myth talking about how women have to kind of work harder than ever before on their appearance to be successful in the workplace, right? So it's really a depressing time for fat people. There's very little, representation or acceptance.
In 1996, Fat Girl was interviewed by Zines Volume 1, a book exploring American zine culture throughout the 1990s.
Can we find that? It's just called Zines. Exploring zine culture in the 90s. Guys, I want to start collecting everything zine related because like I said, my next book is going to be about this, okay? It's going to be analyzing the whole development of queer subculture through zines from an anti-communist perspective. So anything you guys see about zines anywhere, please send it to me. Just if you happen to find it, like Reagan has been doing deep dives into this shit, Bot's been doing deep dives into this shit. Like I want to create a whole catalog of this stuff. I've got so many, you guys don't even know. I have so many windows open on my desktop right now with just zine. It's just like there is so much of this stuff and it's so underanalyzed and it's so under-acknowledged for how it contributed to all the crazy shit today. Yeah, I mean, maybe, like I said, these things are considered collectibles. There are people who collect these things and save them for years and years and years and years and years. Yeah, I literally had to restart my computer earlier today because it was just taken up with, like, 7,000 tabs of zines. And partially from the shit you've been sending me, too, Reagan. So I really do. I know I didn't get into it right away, but I really do appreciate you sending that.
Volume 1, a book exploring American zine culture throughout the 1990s. In the interview, the collective talk extensively about their experiences.
It's on Amazon. It's on fucking women. Amazon. Okay, thanks, Bot.
There's a myth that you'll be wealthier if you're thin, but that isn't really a myth. There is so much discrimination against fat people. There are so many more costs associated with being fat, like clothing, travel. A woman at work told me that she couldn't quit smoking because when she tried, she gained weight. I asked, "You would rather get lung cancer than weigh more?" She said, "Oh yes." She went on and on trying to justify her position. I said, "Look, I realize that fat hatred is very prevalent in our culture." And she protested, "Oh no, it's not fat hatred. Look at my frame." She just never got it. There was a survey in Esquire where all these kids said they would much rather be hit by a truck than be 50 pounds overweight. And wasn't there another survey where people said they would rather die of cancer than be fat? There's another where people said they would rather abort fetuses if they knew ahead of time they'd be fat. And people think we're just whining. What a world. In a world full of fat hatred, Fatgirl were extremely ahead of their time with regard to issues faced by minorities and other ostracized groups. In a segment titled Roundtable, which were transcribed discussions, the collective discussed prominent issues such as the link between racism and fatphobia, which today has been explored extensively by Sabrina Strings, author of Fearing the Black Body, The Racial Origins of Fatphobia, who argues that fatness was used as an indicator by European colonizers for determining whether someone was a slave or not.
Holy shit.
In issue 4, the collective discusses the link between class and fat in relation to upbringing and background.
Are you trying to provide links in the chat? So you have to be a mod to do that. I'll make you a mod. If you want to provide links, I'll make you a mod. Just don't ban anyone or anything, okay? Because I'll take it away if you do. Because I don't really know you. But if you're providing links, I'll add you as a mod for right now. Because if you're providing helpful stuff, I want you to be able to provide it. So.
In issue 5, Sexuality and Fatness, and in issue 7, Butchness and Gender Identity. The adverts featured in Fatgirl also reflect—
No shit. The Fat Activism zine had a whole issue on gender identity. No shit. That kind of looks non-binary, doesn't it? Non-binary in the 90s.
Butchness and Gender Identity. The adverts featured in Fatgirl also reflect their integrity towards fighting prejudice and supporting small queer and sex-positive
BDSM!
businesses in their
Hang on.
identity. The adverts featured in Fatgirl also reflect their integrity towards fighting prejudice.
They had advertisers. They had BDSM advertisers in the Fat Activism zine. Why is that important? Because queer people are really into BDSM. They talk about it all the time. They think it's queering sexuality to do BDSM. Let's see what Captain here is providing us. Yo, Captain, that's a great link, bro. You've already paid off in dividends as a mod. Welcome to the team. He just provided us with a link out of Texas, University of Texas libraries with all sorts of books about zines. Thank you, Captain. We appreciate you.
And supporting small queer and sex-positive businesses. In their interview with Zines Volume 1, Bertha states, "We view advertising as a resource for our readers. We were approached by smart advertisers with ads that weren't pertinent to fat dykes, and it felt good to tell them, we don't want your money. Other gay and lesbian publications tend to go for corporate advertising, and this affects their content because they start pandering to the Budweiser ad on the back cover. But we want advertisers that supported us. They are us. That liked us. That loved us."
I wonder if I can find advertisers for our anti-communist scene that we want to create. That'd be pretty sick.
Making it evident that Fatgirl existed purely to represent, educate, and serve its readers, with a strong moral backing.
I actually remember this book. What the fuck is this? Lunatic Pride? Can we look up what Lunatic Pride is? Pins and pendants for queers of all types.
Existed purely to represent, educate.
I actually remember this book. So this is a sex store, obviously, but there was actually a sex book with this on the cover. I remember seeing that when I worked in a library in the 90s. I used to, when I was in high school, I volunteered at a library. And so that sex book was definitely in the library, I'll tell you that. That sex book was definitely in the library. That book was part of how I learned about sex. Has the form, I don't know. I don't know exactly what you're talking about, Thomas. Can you be a little bit more specific? Yeah. Yep, that's a sex store. Yep.
Educate and serve its readers with a strong moral backing and collective interest.
Wait!
Preventing the venture from turning.
Oh my god, this is so fascinating just even looking at the ads.
Readers.
Look at this. Women with a Y. Because you're getting the men out of women. Women with a Y.
With a strong moral backing and collective interest.
Large and supersized women.
Preventing the venture from turning capitalistic.
Preventing, do you guys hear that? I know I'm pausing a lot. Preventing, they wanted to prevent the zine from turning capitalistic. Yo, Captain! Captain for the win! We love you, Captain! Captain is new on the team. I don't know who he is, but I appreciate him. Captain, if you're on Twitter, please send me a DM.
Pandering to the Budweiser ad on the back cover. But we want advertisers that supported us. They are us. That liked us. That loved us. Making it evident that Fat Girl existed purely to represent, educate, and serve its readers, with a strong moral backing and collective interest, preventing the venture from turning capitalistic.
We're seeing an explosion of sexual expression. Again,
Nudity, pornography, and BDSM content are featured throughout every issue of Fat Girl, with a focus on fat queer sexuality foundational to what Fat Girl stood for. In a reunion Q&A video from
I'm traumatized. I wonder if we can find this episode. Can we find, was this the Zoom call that we were watching? Can we try to find this, Buck? Can you try to find a conversation with Fat Girl Zine? I'm traumatized though. You guys can. All fat activists are amateur porn stars. Who was the first on the internet to say that all fat activists are amateur porn stars? Can I just get a little bit of credit? Hang on. Can I find those tweets from me? Hang on. I want credit. I'm pretty sure I'm the first one to ever say this on the internet, honestly. Fat activists porn. Hang on. Hang on, I'm going to see if I can find the original tweets. I'm pretty sure I'm the first person to ever say this, like, on the internet. Oh, fuck. I can only find one. Hang on. We're going to find this. Nope. Oh, here it is. I found it. I don't even think this was the first time I said it. I've looked into a lot of public presentations. This is July 2022. I've looked into a lot of public presentations on fat studies related to stuff for happy hour, but it's very sparse. But the fat studies content we have watched is insane, and all fat studies academics also seem to be amateur porn stars. Yeah! Once again, my analysis is ahead of its time. And I want everyone to acknowledge me. But you found it! Oh, shit, I know what we're watching this week. Oh, Bot, this is awesome. Thank you. Hang on, I'm just making sure I load it. I love watching Fat Studies. Fat Studies is so crazy. It's so fucking cringe. If you guys have never watched Fat Studies, you have no idea. Yeah, everyone's sending those $2 right super chats for me. I was right. I called it before anyone else on the internet. I called it before James Lindsay. I was fucking right. This is like when Carlin figured out the socialist tattoo thing, and then a year and a half later, I forget who, found the article on ignorant tattoos proving Carlin was right. That was Nick. Shout out Nick Incognito. Nick found that article. We were looking for that article for a year. Over a year. Crazy. Fucking crazy, man. See, all you have to do is actually pay attention to these people. That's it. All you have to do is pay attention to them. All right, I apologize for making you look at that again, but we're moving on.
Foundational to what Fat Girl stood for. In a reunion Q&A video from 2022, Max Airborne states that the zine was born out of the San Francisco kink scene, which was full of fat people. In 1990,
the zine came out, Fat Studies came out of the kink zine, or the kink scene. There we go. Okay, this is so crazy.
1993, the kink scene was the most fat-friendly space I've ever been in. But the inclusion of such explicit content was not without its criticism. In this comic, Max details their disappointment at proudly sending the zine to an older dyke friend, who replied disapprovingly, perceiving the zine as a cry for help. The collective experienced many issues as a result of the mix.
Normal lesbians were like, this isn't cool. Normal lesbians who were not involved in this queer subculture were like, no. I know all the gay men on all the gay men on my channel are traumatized right now. They're like, no, put the boobs away.
Sending the zine to an older dyke friend, who replied disapprovingly, perceiving the zine as a cry for help. The collective experienced many issues as a result of them expressing their sexuality. Sandra notes that finding a local printer who would print the magazine was incredibly difficult. The group also had their mail tampered with 10 different stores not receiving their zines, leading to the group replacing the return address with Mary Smith instead of Fat Girl. These issues highlight exactly why this aspect of the zine was essential. The necessity of smut came back to representation. Fat women weren't portrayed as sexy in mainstream media, and this made fat sexuality inherently political. In Zines Volume 1, Deborah states, "The fact that our sexuality is just there, honestly, is political. We present just honest portrayals. I would forget how confrontational it is to people." In Issue 5's roundtable on sexuality and fatness, the group discussed not being viewed as sexual beings as a result of their bodies, being viewed as undesirable by thin lesbians, only wanting to date other fat women, and male friends assuming fat girls don't start having sex till later. April speaks confidently about the pride she feels when she's able to make people who believe fat people are ugly want her and not be able to get her. I like that. Yes, I like that. I don't like them to be impolite, but I don't mind if they desire. In a further segment in issue 5, titled Fat Watch, the zine gives an insight into mainstream attitudes towards fat women and their sexuality. There's a new arcade game called Feed Big Bertha. It consists of a large three-dimensional doll with a gaping mouth, somewhat reminiscent of a blow-up doll. She has small arms with hands clenched in fists and a tent-like dress. She is set back a few feet in a cage. The object is to quickly throw balls into her mouth. A shot into the mouth registers on an LCD screen as weight gain. When enough points accumulate, Bertha responds by lifting up the front of her skirt to reveal her stomach and underwear. Thus, as the game is played, Big Bertha alternates between being hit repeatedly in the face by balls and exposing herself to the ball thrower. What is most disturbing about seeing and playing the game is the clear connection between violence against fat women and the joke it makes of fat women's sexuality.
Violence against fat
women. In another
okay.
extract from a comedian on Comedy Central, a 400-pound woman carrying a keyring with a whistle on it is ridiculous. It's like putting the club on a 73 Pinto. That's a steering lock on a hugely controversial and undesirable Ford model. Fat Girl's accurate representation of real, fat, queer experiences was hugely important in a world that assumes fat women aren't sexual or desirable, or that fat women are incapable of being raped. Its heavy lean towards smutty content set it aside from other zines trying to accomplish the same goal. In her thesis, Building the Fat Girl Table, Excavating Cultural Memory of Queer Fat Activism in the 90s, author Rose Gelfand states that
Hang on. Can someone look up this dissertation, please? It's called Building the Fat Girl Table, excavating cultural memory of queer fat activism in the 90s. Can someone look up this dissertation? Can we find a copy of this dissertation? I should have warned everyone that this was going to be about porn. I haven't watched fat content in a while. I forgot that this was going to be about porn. Oh, you guys found it! Bot and Reagan in for the win at the same time. Thank you, Bot and Reagan. You both get credit. You sent it in at the same time.
Queer fat activism in the 90s, author Rose Gelfand states that unlike Fat So, a zine by Marilyn Wayne, made in the exact same street as Fat Girl from 1994
there were two!
until it became a book in 1998.
Fat So, can someone look that up?
Fat Girl has been excluded from the dialogue due to its queer and sexual nature. The widespread popularity of Fat So and simultaneous erasure of Fat Girl has led to many popular media sources perpetuating an ahistorical or incomplete picture of what fat activism looked like throughout the 1990s.
So what they're saying is there were two competing fat zines in the 90s. There was Fat So, which Bot has just found in the chat, and Fat Girl. Fat So was not political. Fat Girl was inherently queer and inherently political. Therefore, Fat Girl was excluded from the narrative in the 90s. Wow. Because it was queer.
Making it essential to keep the history of Fat Girl alive.
I'm not the kind of person who has willpower. I have to completely eliminate the bad food. So, I decided I'm an alcoholic where food is concerned and that one bite is the start of a 3-day binge. So I just concentrate on...
Health, exercise, and fatness go hand in hand when discussing why fatness is bad and overweight people must lose weight. This is also something Fat Girl talked about extensively, with a great deal of self-awareness. The collective explains the diet myth. The myth being that if you diet, you'll get thin. I read that 92.8% of people who diet gain all the weight back within 2 years, plus more weight. So if you engage in the cycle that you diet, gain it back, then diet, gain it back, you'll get progressively heavier.
Holy shit.
It's also,
we found
if you're thin, life will be perfect.
We found the origin of this crazy
everybody
fucking
will
ideology.
Like you, and nothing will go wrong. You'll have a better sex life. You'll be wealthier. Healthy, wealthy, wise, and thin. And every single piece of that is untrue. The collective maintains that being fat isn't always a choice, with them highlighting the plight involved in the alternative. Barbara goes on to explain how she believes that fat is definitely its own class.
Oh!
With society's obsession with obesity and women's preoccupation with being thin, keeping us as a society from talking about real-world issues such as racism and misogyny. Throughout the zine, mental health and physical health are discussed in great depth in relation to weight. From light-hearted content, such as Bertha's much-loved segment, The Kitchen Slut, in which she shares recipes from sweet treats, picnics, and salads, to heavier topics, such as the importance of managing...
What the fuck?!
...treats, picnics, and salads.
It's not just recipes. She's in lingerie. In the kitchen. How are the new people feeling? Is this anyone's first introduction to fat studies? I feel like the OGs on my channel were prepared for this because we haven't talked about fat studies in a long time. I feel like the people who used to watch fat studies with me were prepared for this, whereas people who might be newer to my content were unprepared for the world of fat activism. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
Salads. To heavier topics, such as the importance of managing stress and sleep apnea, disability and fatness, the dangers of heavily processed low-fat alternatives, which is something only just being given attention today, and how being fat reduces and increases the chance of suffering from certain medical conditions.
Unprepared. I apologize.
Every issue also provided up-to-date resources on where readers could receive local help for sexual, physical, and mental health issues. In the 6th issue, titled The Swimsuit Issue, the collective and contributors discuss their relationship with exercise, listing all the sports fat girls play. Much is said on trauma related to exercise, with multiple accounts telling of verbal attacks made by men and being gawked, hissed and laughed at while exercising. Traumatizing PE sessions and being made to feel like you can't participate in sports because you are fat shape these women's experiences. As seen in The Fat Fighters, the mainstream provides a clear narrative. Fat women are lazy when they don't exercise, but laughable when they do.
I'm going back to the gym. I need to go back to the gym. I need to go back to the gym so bad. I can't. Like, people can shame me on the internet about my weight all day, every day, and I'm just like, fuck you guys, I don't care. I watch one fat studies video and I'm like, man, Planet Fitness is looking good right now. I'm like... I'm gonna go find my workout shoes. I'm going back to Planet Fitness. I'm lifting some weights.
Fat Girl puts into perspective that losing weight is often far less about worry for others' health and far more about finding fat people unappealing and disgusting. From Max's example of their colleague preferring to maintain their smoking habit in order to maintain their weight, to the fat fighter's complete disregard for eating disorders amongst overweight people. With the show ignoring that in order for their contestants to achieve the weight loss they did, they had to replace their current so-called unhealthy habits, emotional eating and eating when they went hungry, with a different set of unhealthy habits, excluding entire food groups, ignoring hunger cues, and discouraging intuitive eating in order to control every aspect of their diets. Fat Girl make it clear that we scarcely look at the full picture. Fat women's health is not taken seriously. The collective talk extensively of the invisible woman in America's healthcare system, with Sondra telling that a 14-year-old girl was told by her gynecologist that she was missing her period because she was overweight, when in fact she was pregnant. While Bertha talks with a friend who was told by her doctor,
Pregnant
you need
at
to lose
14.
weight, that's your problem. But her real problem was she had cancer, and she died. Fat Girl consistently talks about fatness in a balanced way, highlighting that fat has good and bad aspects. It is very clear from segments such as What Do You Dislike About Being Fat, which asks the readers about their honest and candid experiences, that Fat Girl did not aim to promote obesity or sugarcoat the fat experience, but instead create a safe space, giving a voice to fat, queer, marginalised women to talk candidly about their experiences, living in a society in which they are senselessly shunned. Fat Girl survives as an endlessly important time capsule of inspiring fat queer experiences and attitudes from women and non-binary people existing throughout the 1990s. Fat Girl is as relevant today as it was 30 years ago, with the zine encouraging the reader to scrutinise their own internalized biases and fatphobia. Whether you agree with the Fat Girl message or not, with attitudes towards fatness and body image scarcely changed today, and a world that will happily profit off of our self-hatred, Fat Girl serves as a reminder that when we are able to push aside judgment and hatred,
unprepared.
we can create room for listening, understanding, and empathy.
Oh my god! Why don't do Planet Fitness? Planet Fitness has weights. It has weights, it has treadmills, that's all I care about. Thank you. Yeah, I apologize. For anyone who was traumatized, see, you know, people like people from like the like red pill crowd, they think that they just need to shame they just need to shame people into losing weight. No, what they need to do is watch fat studies. I have never desired more to go back to the gym in my life. I'm going back to the fucking gym. I know exactly where my workout shoes are in my bedroom. I'm going back to the gym. I need to make the gym the priority. That woman has a socialist tattoo on their ass. Well, I don't care about that, really, honestly. There is a socialist tattoo on that woman's ass. Yeah, as everyone who press 1 in the chat if you're going back to the gym after this. Press 2 in the chat if you're like, no, I'm cool being fat. Fitness is like literally right down the road from me. It's literally like half a mile away from me, so that's why I would go too. Yo, I was fucking traumatized. Oh god, that's too much. I'm gonna have to read all those zines too. Thank you for everyone who is sending in links. I'm gonna have to read all those zines. All right. Well, who would like to learn about the Communist Manifesto? Who wants to learn about the like anything we see now is going to be like a notch down from that. So if you were traumatized by what we just watched, we're taking it down a notch. Where it's about to get a lot more calm. Okay, let's watch the Communist Manifesto. Okay, now we're moving into we can't because there's not that much fat studies content on the internet. I would if I could. But now we're moving into the Communist Manifesto. This is going to be a lot calmer. This is from the Denver Communists. We're going to watch a 2-part series analyzing the Communist Manifesto. And I need to pee. So I'm going to start this video and I'm going to go to the little socialist room and you guys can let me know what I missed, okay? I'll be right back.
It's important to understand the fundamental text of socialist/communist. By no means is this a full description or analysis of the first 2 chapters of the manifesto. Honestly, we could talk for weeks and weeks about each section. My aim with this is to help new comrades have a better understanding. So if they have read it, it may clear things up. If they haven't, it might help as a guide for older comrades. It's always good to talk about this. Throughout my slides and everything, I'm going to use like quote unquote modern terms just to like make it easier, but you'll see. It's the video is. Oh, why did it not work? There we go. Okay, so background, Communist Manifesto was written by Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels. Karl Marx was a German philosopher, economist, historian, political theorist, journalist, and social revolutionary. Friedrich Engels was a scientist.
I'm back. We're going to watch that. We're just not going to watch it today. Don't worry. We're going to watch it. We're just not going to watch it today. Relax.
That's about the only difference. The manifesto was published in 1848, recognized as one of the world's most influential political documents, summarizes Marx and Engels' theories concerning the nature of society, politics, and also probably one of Marx's easiest things to read, like in text. If you've read any of his stuff, he goes pretty deep. So it starts off with the preamble. The Communist Manifesto begins with the preamble. A specter is haunting Europe, the specter of communism. All the powers of old Europe have entered into a holy alliance to exploit this specter. Pope and Tsar, Manchurian and Gazat, sorry, I'll butcher these, French radicals and German police spies. What Marx and Engels are laying out is the growing power of communism and how this growth, this power, it makes those in charge, the clergy, the monarchs, cops, the elites, anything like that, scared. Marx and Engels asked the question of why there is no opposition to these powers that is communistic, working class since they, the capitalists, fear it. They say 2 things result from these facts. Communism is already acknowledged by all European powers, and I have in here all world powers or powers, to be itself a power. It is high time that the communists should openly, in the face of the whole world, publish their views, their aims, their tendencies, and meet this nursery tale of the specter of communism.
Yep. See? You all appreciate what I do a little bit more now, don't you? You all appreciate this a little bit more. I'm just saying. The Communist Manifesto is now a welcomed analysis when you compare it to fat activism. This happens literally every time I've watched fat activism on this channel. 100% of the time, people are freaked the F out. I wonder if that fat conference is still going on. I should go to the fat conference. Before I start going to the Planet Fitness and losing weight, I should go to the fat conference. Because when I start actually trying to lose weight, I lose weight very quickly. So like I need to plan my weight loss around I need to plan my Planet Fitness journey around going to the fat conference and going undercover at the fat conference. Because I feel like I can still get away with it right now. I can bulk up a little. I can wear really oversized clothes to make myself look even fatter than I am. I don't need to. I can just wear oversized clothes. You wear oversized clothes. I already pretty much wear oversized clothes. You wear oversized clothes, you can look like 3 or 4 sizes bigger than you are.
With a manifesto of the party itself. So this is essentially what the manifesto sets out to do. This is its aim. So section 1 is the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Section 1 starts off with the fire line of the and describing the historic nature.
Look at this.
The history of all.
Look at this. They've actually crossed out bourgeois and put capitalist instead. Isn't that funny? Hang on, I need to take a picture of that. Crossed out bourgeois, put capitalist instead.
All hitherto existing societies is the history of class struggle. All this is meant by is that all written history is a history of 2 classes struggling. They give some examples in the manifesto of these historic struggles through time, the freeman and the slave, the lord, the serf, et cetera, et cetera. As Marx and Engels sum it up, oppressor and oppressed. These 2 classes, Marx and Engels say, are in direct opposition to each other, and that this conflict will either end in the reconstruction of society to a new model or the destruction of both classes. They further explain the historic order of the different societies and how complicated they were. Now, like I said, this was written in 1848, so we do have to kind of take into consideration like different languages. It's also translated too, so there's translation. So by complicated, I take it to mean multi-layered, not complicated as in it's hard to understand. They give a brief description. This is why I say it's like multi-layered when they use the word complicated. It's the idea of like the lord, the serf, or lord, knight, serf, things like that. That's really what they mean by complicated. When they say the bourgeois or the bourgeoisie, this just means the elite, the mega wealthy. You can think Jeff Bezos, you can think of your shitty ass landlord. It's anyone who appropriates money off of others' labor. Marx and Engels.
Your landlord. Your landlord is considered bourgeoisie because they own property.
Explain that with the
and they make money off it.
Rise of capitalists. The rise of the capitalists from feudal society, class antagonism did not disappear, but rather it created new ways of oppression. What it did do, though, was simplify the class antagonism into 2 distinct camps, capitalist and worker. This is where the complicated class, that difference is.
Again,
because instead of having,
the whole thing.
These is multiple different.
Bourgeois is crossed out and replaced with capitalist. Sorry, I'm just taking a picture of this so I can remember it for later.
Like in India, the caste system or anything like that. Society, these classes broke down into those that must sell their labor to survive and those who depend on the labor of others to survive. The capitalists did this by collectivizing labor. And how did this come about? So this is where the manifesto turns and starts laying out the kind of historical rise of the bourgeois or the capitalists, if you will. Marx and Engels explain that the discovery of the Americas, the colonization of them, and the rounding of the Cape, opening up of the eastern area were pivotal moments in the rise of capital. This makes me kind of think that America is the heart.
The bourgeoisie capitalist has torn away from the family its sentimental veil, has torn away from the family its sentimental veil and has reduced family relations to mere. Oh, that's a really good one. Actually, that's really good. That's really good. This is part of why they want to abolish the family, guys. Capitalism has torn away from the family its sentimental veil and has reduced the family relation to a mere money relation. What that means is that people only have access to the resources that their family have access to based on the privatized wealth of their family. It also means that that's why they want to make all resources available to everyone. That's what Marxism is, because you are no longer dependent upon the resources of your family. Really good note, Bot.
Like if you were to think of the whole thing as like a living entity, like a body, you know, the Americas are the heart of capital. We can see historically the significance its colonization had in the development of capital, and now its significance in capitalism today. The actual class of capitalists came when old guilds could no longer keep up with the new market demands. Manufacturing took center stage. Division of labor between different guilds vanished, being replaced with division of labor in each workshop, and this grew into factories. So capitalists arose from the radical transformation of industry and exchange. And what's kind of interesting in the manifesto, I didn't type this out, but Marx and Engels aren't like, they're not, when you read it, there's kind of almost an awe in what capitalism did, because they're not negating the fact that it was not revolutionary, because it did destroy an old class society and built a new class society. So like, they're not so much saying that like, oh my God, you know, the iPhone is terrible or whatever. Like, no, they're just saying that like the process of what these things, like how it is, you know, looked at. If you look at this diagram, it's going to benefit the few on the backs of the many. Marx and Engels said the reconstruction of remember this is talking about 1848, and one thing capital does is consistently revolutionize itself. So when we think about this today, we see now that the manufacturing plant that once was an industry here is now offshored for many reasons we can discuss. Those shop jobs, those manufacturing jobs that used to be here have now been replaced with the service industry. Through the rise of capitalism, as Marx and Engels said, it has resolved personal worth into exchange value. So how many times have you felt you didn't do enough, or you didn't accomplish something, or you weren't productive in the day? That is the product of capitalism. Basically, material wealth has become the defining worth of someone under capitalism. For the next few sections, Marx and Engels lay out the historic claim of what the capitalists have done. I kind of call this the bourgeois did this section. I put some of the key ones that I thought.
Hang on, let's just take a look. Bot's talking about internalized capitalism. Did he say that? I'm going to assume he said that, Bot. Oh, you're saying, okay.
Have you felt you didn't do enough, or you didn't accomplish something, or you weren't productive in the day?
Yeah, you're right about that.
That is the product of capitalism. Basically, material wealth has become the defining.
Yeah, so what Bot is saying with internalized capitalism is the fact that he's saying, like, if you feel you didn't do enough in the day, that is a byproduct of you internalizing the capitalist system, because you feel like you need to reach a certain level of productivity in the day because of the internalized capitalist system.
Worth of someone under capitalism. For the next few sections, Marx and Engels lay out the historic claim of what the capitalists have done. I kind of call this the bourgeois did this section. I put some of the key ones that I thought were important up here. After all of this, Marx and Engels state that the historic action of the capitalist class are. I put some of the key ones in I thought were important up to this slide. After all this, Marx and Engels state that the historic action of the capitalist class That's where they kind of like start to acknowledge this. They say modern bourgeois society, with its relations to production of exchange and property, a society that has conjured up such gigantic means of production and of exchange, is like the sorcerer who is no longer able to control the powers of the netherworld, whom he has called up by his spells. The power they are no longer to control are the workers. Marx and Engels described them as the individuals that will wield the instruments the capitalists created to crush them. This is where they explain how the working class or the proletariat came to be with the rise of capitalism. So they start to now kind of delve into the historical rise of the working class. Marx and Engels describe what could or should happen to the working class after this. They describe how initially it starts as an independent struggle of workers fighting a boss. So like a worker just fighting a boss independently. As the working class increased in numbers, it became more condensed. Its strength grows, so think unions. With this, workers can win a few victories. These local struggles then, so the next kind of move, these local struggles become centralized into an international struggle. So think of like apartheid, police brutality, prison abolition. And from all of this action, a political party from the working class should form or could form.
So he just explained how capitalism is related to like these mass problems as they see, especially prison abolition. Prison abolition, abolishing the police, defunding the police is one of the main goals of the left.
All the preceding classes that got to the upper hand sought to fortify the already acquired status by subjecting society at large to their conditions of appropriation. The proletarians cannot become masters of the productive forces of society except by abolishing their own previous mode of appropriation, and thereby also other previous modes of appropriation. They have nothing of their own to secure and to fortify. Their mission is to destroy all previous securities for and insurances of individual property. So basically, we cannot become what we seek to destroy as communists. So Marx and Engels choose this or close this out by stating the essential condition for the existence and for the sway of the bourgeois class is the formation and augmentation of capital. The condition for capital is wage labor. Wage labor rests exclusively on competition between the laborer. The advance in industry, whose involuntary prompter is the bourgeois, replaces the isolation of the laborer due to the competition by the revolutionary combination due to association. The development of modern industry therefore cuts from under its feet the very foundations on which the bourgeois produces and appropriates products. What the bourgeois therefore produce.
So essentially what this part is saying, I just want to make sure people who are new might understand this. What they're saying is there are two classes in society. There's the bourgeois and there's the proletariat. The bourgeois are the private property owners, the people who own businesses, the people who own houses, the people who rent them out as landlords, things like that. And the bourgeois exploits the proletariat by essentially like hiring them for their businesses and paying them a little pittance and exploiting them for profit, and that the goal of the bourgeois is always to maximize as much profit as possible, and they're perfectly fine with exploiting people, they're fine with exploiting resources, they will exploit anything they need to in order to create as much wealth, as much personal privatized wealth as possible. And that's why we have all these problems in society, is because capitalism has destroyed society by making the sole aim the accumulation of personal private wealth. Please let me know if there are questions in the chat for people who might be new.
Above all are its own grave diggers. Its fall and its victory of the proletariat are equally inevitable. So yeah, I've got a little description here, a little picture. So the next section is section 2, and that's where we start to dive into.
Proletarian means worker.
The working class, or the proletariat and the communists, working class and the communists, whatever you want to say. So section 2 starts off with talking about the relations between working class and the communists. In what relation do the communists stand to the proletariat as a whole? The communists do not form a separate party opposed to other working class parties. They have no interests separate and apart from those of the proletariat as a whole. They do not set up any sectarian principles of their own by which to shape and mold the proletariat movement. In summary, communist interests are not separate from the working class because we are of the working class. The major difference of the Communist Party from other parties is
communists are the working class. Communists are the oppressed. This is why communists think, and a socialist and leftist believe, that all black people should be communists. Because they believe that black people are inherently oppressed in America because America was built on racism, because it was built on slavery. That's why they think that all black people should be inherently leftist, inherently communist, socialist. This is why Joe Biden said, if you don't vote for me, you ain't black. This is why the Los Angeles Times said that Larry Elder is the black face of white supremacy, because Larry Elder doesn't consider himself to be oppressed. All right? So that's why they believe that. We are the working class. We are inherently oppressed.
it is not bound to one nation. It is international because our labor is international. Oppression is international. Capital is international. The aim of the communists is to overthrow capital and gain political power for the working class. Simply put, the dictatorship of the working class. Yes, dictatorship is a misunderstood word at this point in English language, rightfully so, but we currently have a global dictatorship of capital. We just don't call it that. So elegantly put, it is.
So they currently believe we are in a global dictatorship of capital. That means capitalism rules the world. They want to replace capitalism with a dictatorship of the worker, which will be global and international in nature, because they don't believe that one single country can turn communist and have that actually work. That's why you've heard some black activists say they built this country. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
We want the power to be in the hands of the majority, the working class. Marx and Engels go on to say, the immediate aim of the communists is the same as that of all other proletarian parties: freedom of the proletariat into a class, overthrow of the bourgeois supremacy, conquest of political power by the proletariat.
Capitalist supremacy.
Among these goals is the abolition of private capitalist property. This is not
the private okay, so he's about to distinguish between personal property and private property. So the goal of the communist is to abolish private property. Private property is defined, they're going to call it bourgeois property or capitalist property. It's any property that you can use to create personal privatized wealth. So your home, your land, an apartment that you rent out as a landlord, intellectual property, a business, whether that private business be big or small. Your parental rights are considered to be a form of private property because they're what allows you to pass wealth from parent to child. It is also the reproduction mechanism of capitalism. The nuclear family is the reproduction mechanism of capitalism that reproduces capitalist values in society. That's why they want to abolish the family. Your individual liberties are also considered to be a form of private property. Your freedom of speech, freedom of religion, that sort of thing.
Abolition of property overall. This is often a criticism levied at communists, that we want to abolish property, and it's the idea of property that is used for capitalist purposes.
Bing.
The distinguishing features, Marx and Engels say, the distinguishing features of communism is not the abolition of property general, but the abolition of bourgeois property. But modern bourgeois private property is the final and most complete expression of the system of production and appropriating products. That is based on class antagonisms, on the exploitation of many by the few. Therefore, we say abolition of private property. Marx and Engels explain that 9 out of 10 people, this is already a reality. 9 out of 10 of us do not own, we don't have property. that we could turn around and generate this massive wealth from. Capital is therefore not only personal, it is a social power. We can see this today even more. Marx and Engels bring up the counterpoint of communism being the abolition of individual freedom. All capitalists mean by this these words of.
Did you hear what he just said? Again? Hang on, hang on, hang on.
Of communism being the abolition of individual freedom. All capital.
Communism is the abolition of individual freedom? Tell me more, please.
Therefore, not only personal, it is a social power. We can see this today even more. Marx and Engels bring up the counterpoint of communism being the abolition of individual freedom. All capitalists mean by this these words of by freedom and things like that, and individuality. Is the under the present bourgeois conditions, the production, free trade, free selling and buying. That's the only freedom that they're.
He's talking about free market capitalism. So you own stuff, you can sell that stuff for profit. That's what they mean.
That they're talking about. That's the only individuality they're talking about. It's not actual personal individuality. It's not personal freedom.
I disagree.
Next, Marx and Engels address the family and how the conception of the family we know today is a capital conception because our existence and reproduction are.
He's about to talk about social reproduction theory. I know. I get super excited every time they talk about the social reproduction theory. Abolish the family is my favorite topic of communists. He is about to tell you that this isn't the RCA, this is the Denver Communists. He's about to tell you that they want to abolish the nuclear family because the nuclear family is the literal means of production of capitalism via something called social reproduction theory, which social reproduction theory says that social systems will reproduce themselves until they're abolished. The family will be the family because it exists within the capitalist environment will reproduce capitalism until the family is abolished. So this is the literal means of production of capitalism.
Marx and Engels address the family and how the conception of the family we know today is a capital conception because our existence and reproduction are, and reproducing like offsprings only feeds the capital beast. Do you charge? They say, do you charge us with wanting to stop the exploitation of children by their parents? To this crime, we plead guilty. This doesn't mean that communists want to stop families and things. It's we want to stop the breeding of people for a machine that just kills us in the end.
We want to stop the breeding of people for the capitalist machine. That's why they want to abolish the family. Rationalist says it's a pity because your streams show the true extent of leftist delusion, yet conservatives will still be like, moi, moi, libs of TikTok, show me Kamala as a communist. Yeah, Rationalist. The struggle is real, my friend. The struggle is real. Appreciate you. Sam, this is the Denver Communists. This is not the RCA. This is the Denver Communists.
Is kind of what they're saying. They also address education. Communists do not wish to abolish education. This is often a criticism.
No, they want everything to be publicly
thrown
funded
against us as well. We simply want to free it from the ruling class. People say that communists wish to abolish nations. This is true because, as Marx and Engels said, the working men have no country. We cannot take from what they take from them what they have.
Sam, you're saying that when the RCA came on my stream, they said the Communist Manifesto doesn't talk about the family, and I said yes, the Communist Manifesto does talk about the family, and they said show us the citation. I was like, we're in the middle of a live interview. I'm not going to bring up that citation right now, but yeah, the Communist Manifesto absolutely talks about abolishing the family. The Revolutionary Communists of America are full of shit. I get you now, Sam. Apologies.
Have not got. Therefore, the working class struggle is a international thing because capital, once again, is international. when it comes to the statement about religion and morality being abolished, my interpretation is it doesn't refer to like the form of like spiritualism or these things or morals as in like human like decency. Like I said, this is 1848. This is a big time during like Christian Reformation and all of these things. Also translated, it's referring to like organized religion and to religious morality. Since the manifesto covers history, historically, these things have been used as oppressive tools of all societies preceding. You know, you can just look at how religion was wielded, organized religion, and these like moralities of religion were wielded as ways of oppressing people and subjugating them. And yeah. Concluding the section, Marx and Engels lay out some guidelines. So, sorry, I'm a little behind on slides, my bad, y'all. So, you know, they don't claim to have like this roadmap or blueprint for communism. There's not like a, if you do this, you will have communism. They simply provide the historical material for us to use, for us to understand how to fight and organize against our current situation. They first say it is a must that the first step in the revolution by the working class is to raise the proletariat to the position of ruling class to win the battle for democracy. Again, another language thing, democracy.
Win the battle for democracy. Democracy, when socialists say it, means socialism.
What we think or what we've been told democracy is not what democracy is.
See?
When Marx and Engels say the word democracy, they mean, you know, the participation of individuals in a democratic fashion.
They mean communism.
Next, they state some, like I said, some general guidelines, and I put these on there. Abolition of property and land, the heavy progressive or graduated income tax, abolition of all rights and inheritance. This one, I put the what the fuck.
The abolition of all rights of inheritance. That's why they, again, want to abolish the nuclear family, because the nuclear family is the system that necessitates the right of inheritance. Because they want to overthrow the federal government, Greg. You need to acclimate to this reality. You are never going to negotiate with radical revolutionary communists and socialists in the United States. They want to overthrow the federal government. They want to abolish the Constitution. So this doesn't matter. You're never going to have this conversation. This doesn't matter. These are revolutionary communists. They're never going to have that conversation with you. They want to abolish the Constitution, bro. No, that's not what I said. That's not what I said. That's not what I said at all. That's a conservative interpretation of what I said. That's not what I actually said. What I actually said is revolutionary socialists and communists in the United States want to overthrow the federal government and abolish the Constitution.
Because again, it's that language and thing again, confiscation of property of all immigrants and rebels. So no, Marx and Engels were not talking about immigrants in the sense of what we would think. My understanding by immigrants is it is meant as like the capitalists, like they were saying, they have to open these new markets and move around and all of this. So they're calling capitalists aren't natural is what they're trying to point out. This is like I said, this is an example of like outdated language as well as potential like translation differences. So I don't know, I wouldn't get too hung up on it, I guess. Centralization of credit in the hands of the state by means of national banks, the state capital, centralization of the means of communication, extension of factories, they go on and on. So if we try to apply these or work towards these general goals, Mark.
That's a conservative interpretation of what's going on, Greg. They want to institute a socialist society where everyone is at the same level to abolish everything about the American experience. If you're new to my channel, I recommend you come back. I recommend you watch more socialist content with me. I'm not going to break this all down for you today, but this is a conservative interpretation of what they're doing. It's not actually what they're doing. And it's important that people understand this. Let me just be frank. I'm not going to stop the entire stream for you to bring you up to speed on what they want. If you want more information, you can go to my Substack. That is Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Link in the description below. Go to the How to Speak Socialist section in my Substack. Click on the very first link at the top. That is the How to Speak Socialist presentation. That is a 4-hour on-demand presentation that will bring you up to speed on this. It will answer your question, but I'm not going to stop the entire stream to answer this question today, unless you send me in a nice big super chat, and then I will. Well, bro, then you don't care about understanding your enemy. Do you want to know why you people lose? Do you want to know why you have no fucking idea what the left thinks or what they actually believe? This. Do you want to know why the left will always defeat you? This. This right here. You don't understand your enemy. You do not understand the people you're fighting. I am giving you free resources on the internet that you can access right now to understand your enemy, and you're going, I don't want to. Well, then continue to lose to the left. I don't care, but don't waste our fucking time if you aren't serious. Every time. Thanks. Go watch the presentation. Go watch the How to Speak Socialist presentation, and if you're not going to do that, don't fucking come back. Thanks for the money.
Marx and Engels say, in place of the old bourgeois society with its classes and class antagonisms, we shall have an association in which the free development of each is the condition for the free development of all.
Hey, thanks, Renan. We do it because we have to, not because we want to. Conservatives don't understand this because conservatives are fucking lazy. Fucking lazy.
Before I end this, there's, like I said, there's just a few things. If you haven't read the manifesto, just remember it was written in 1847, 1848. This is by far Marx's easiest read, but it's still challenging. There is, like I said, there's
not
different
actually that challenging
languages or understandings of things. Depending on what text you get, there will be different like prefaces or prefaces for different countries during different years. You don't have to read these if you don't want to. If it's your first time, I don't know, it's not necessary, I guess. There's also some footnotes that they put in there. These just clear things up. Not necessary to read if you don't want to. The type of work has changed, which Marx and Engels predicted. So therefore, we must add to the history to have relevance in today's time. So we're basically, in our discussions that we have on this, we're adding to this document in a sense. The manifesto is Eurocentric, but looking at the time in history when it was written, Europe was the most developed nation. So we must think about the writing in our landscape and time. So that doesn't mean that it's bad or it's wrong. I mean, he's writing in 1848. That's where it kind of all started. So you can't help it. With all that being said, the Communist Manifesto is a foundational text to all communists. Its age does not make it irrelevant. The way the text is presented allows for us to add to what is being said to understand our current situations under capital. This is what makes it a foundational document. And here's that zinger. All right, that's it.
That was actually a funny ending. All right, let's go right into part 2, guys. We are going into part 2 of the analysis of the Communist Manifesto. Thanks for hanging in. Happy Friday. Pour the alcohol if you got it. We got 27 minutes left of analysis about the Communist Manifesto. Guys, if you have questions, please feel free to put them in the chat. I will answer any and all questions that come in. I will do my best to break down the language. As a reminder, Actually, let me just show you on the Substack where you can find that How to Speak Socialist presentation if you feel so inclined. Da 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 da. Hang on. If you want to find the How to Speak Socialist presentation that I just mentioned to our new friend Greg, head over to Carlyn, KARLYN.substack.com. Go to the How to Speak Socialist section right up at the top. Go to the 4-hour on-demand masterclass that is right up at the top there. This is a 4-hour crash course in everything you need to know about the left. In order to get up to speed, this is a collection of clips from the communist and socialist trainings that we've been watching on this channel for like 3+ years now. So you can go watch this. It's completely available for free on demand. You can watch it on the YouTube channel also, and that will get you up to speed with everything you need to know about the left that the conservative right never taught you. Again, that's carlin.substack.com, and go to the How to Speak Socialist section in the upper menu, and you will come right to this. But today we are analyzing the Communist Manifesto, so we're going to go back to this, and let's continue. And by the way, the reason that we have all this amazing content is that socialists and communists actually care about education, and they put this stuff all on the internet. Why don't you spend time researching leftists who are influencing politics? You're a retard. You're like leftists who think that fighting Nazis is the best way to beat the right wing. You're a retard. I'll fix the sound, Captain. Communists won't take over the U.S. anytime soon. This video has 50 views. You are a retard. Who wants to guess? Who believes? Press 1 in the chat if you think that No BS Allowed has ever commented on my channel before. Press 2 in the chat if you think that No BS is completely new here. Let's just see. Did someone already ban them? No, here we go. Channel activity. 1 in the chat if you think that No BS has ever commented on my channel before. 2 in the chat if you think that No BS is just here to cause trouble. Good argument, Carlin. Curse out your audience. No, Greg. No. No. You don't fundamentally understand the left. Bro, if you're not interested in learning about the left, get the fuck out and go over to the Daily Wire. Honestly. Go over to Fox News, you won't learn shit there. Go over to The Blaze, you won't learn shit there. Go over to Steven Crowder, you won't learn shit there. If you aren't interested in learning, get the fuck out and go to simpler content, because that seems like it might be more like your IQ level. So let's see. How many people think No BS has ever chatted into the channel before? No. You always follow the same routine. You don't actually respond to people's critiques. No, Jill. You're right, Jill. I don't respond to your critiques, Jill. You want to know why I don't respond to your critiques, Jill? Why would I? Why would I? This is the person chatting in on the channel right now. This is the person that has been stalking me for 4 years. This is who we're talking to. I just want to make sure we have a visual representation. So that means I'm not allowed to ask a question. You can send me money, bitch. The minimum amount for you to ask me a question is $100 super chat. I'll wait, Jill. For the amount of ridiculous consternation that you've caused me, for the amount of times that you disrupt my streams by creating new accounts every single day, $100 super chat and you can ask a question. Otherwise, we're just going to talk about how you're a 500-pound shut-in that doesn't leave your house and that comes to my streams creating a new account every single day. You don't understand the hostility? You've created another new account yet again, just like you do oh really, Greg? Oh really? Greg just got banned from my channel. Goodbye. Bye, Greg. That's you. That's you. That's you who's on this channel every single day with a new account that's never chatted into the channel before. That's you every single day trying to cause a disruption because you're too fucking stupid to understand what we're doing here. That's you. We all know who you are, Jill. And now we're going to ban you again. So we can go back to analyzing the Communist Manifesto without the interruptions of a 500-pound psychotic shut-in who only lives to stalk me on the internet. And I've set up the sound on this. Let me make sure it's just set up. Okay, let's go back to well, we didn't really miss much. Okay, let's start.
Parties. So before I want to jump into those parts, I just want to do a brief review of part 1 with chapters 1 and 2 that Tyler so gloriously presented us last week. So I'm just going to jump into some quick points about that. First being a very bright red screen. Uh-oh. There we go.
We almost made it through. Can I just comment on the fact we made it 2.5 hours without having any BS and nonsense, and now they're all coming in because they just can't stand it.
Revisiting part 1. Once again, it was published in 1848, 3 weeks before the French Revolution of February 24th. In the preface, Engels states that the manifesto was published as the platform of the Communist League, a working men's association. Marx and Engels were commissioned to prepare for publication a complete theoretical and practical party program. Drawn up in German in January 1848, the manuscript was sent to the printer in London a few weeks later, before the French Revolution of February 24th. And then one interesting detail that I just...
Is that why they always refer to the Paris Commune? Because the Communist Manifesto was published like not long before the French Revolution. That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Wanted to highlight real quick because we're talking about different forms of socialism and what have you. The manifesto was titled communist rather than socialist because, as Engels explained, the word socialist was associated with the utopians on the one hand, and on the other with the most, quote, multifarious social quacks who by all manner of tinkering profess to redress without any danger to capital and profit all sorts of social
isn't
grievances.
That interesting?
Which I love.
Isn't that interesting? They titled the Communist Manifesto because they didn't think the socialists were real communists. How very communist of them.
And therefore, this publication, quote, whatever portion of the working class had become convinced of the insufficiency of mere political revolutions and had proclaimed the necessity of a total social change, called itself communist. So, as we know, just to close that part out, it is the most concise statement and the most important single document of Marxism, where all revolutionary socialism has been inspired. Let's see. I'm trying to...
No. I can be sure. I really can be. Because you know how I can be sure? Because not only does Jill do this every single day, but then she writes an article about it that she puts on Twitter where mysteriously she has screenshots of the people that I berate and victimize, where she says, I was just watching this stream and Carla just attacked this poor person. And I don't understand why she just attacked this poor person. So what she's doing, Rationalist, is she's hate watching the stream every single day from beginning to end to produce these articles that she puts on her Twitter page that James Lindsay then retweets, where she's like, Carlin is just victimizing these poor innocent people in her chat. So yeah, we know who it is. Trust me.
Go to the next slide. And it's not allowing me to. Oh my God. Hold on, guys. Sorry about that.
I can edit this out. Don't worry about it.
Perfect. For some reason, yeah, it's not letting me. There we go. We can make that happen. All right. So Tyler, of course, covered this as well. The idea of the specter that is haunting Europe, the specter of communism.
We just learned about this. Come on.
So The manifesto kind of
look, she has a socialist haircut. She has these weird bangs. She has a mullet in the back. I also really do appreciate all this propaganda that the Denver communists put in their presentations.
have made clear and distinguished their goals and aims, their theories and practices to expose this specter, right, as the fairy tale that it actually was. And that's something they mentioned in the manifesto as well. So, of course, that's something we're still attempting to do today. You know, when we're talking about anti-communist indoctrination, as we, from the time we're children up and through adulthood. But the powerful point here is that the power of communism is seen as a viable threat to these world powers. They need to create a monster, therefore we need to create a monster as well. And this kind of supports the statement that communists must be present and open in their revolutionary struggles. So slide 3 here, we're just again revisiting very briefly the bourgeoisie and the proletarians with the all-around kind of quote here, all history of hitherto existing society is the history of class struggles. Essentially, this speaks to the evolution and the development and growth of the power in the epoch of the bourgeoisie to the date of the publication when there was such a, quote, gigantic means of production and exchange. It is like the sorcerer who's no longer able to control the powers of the netherworld. This results in the provision of tools for the proletariat and equals too much commerce, industry, subsistence, and civilization. Further, it necessitates the need to conquer other economies. Think imperialism and further exploitation of these old ones. So the bourgeoisie cannot exist without constantly revolutionizing the instruments of production, and with them, full relations of society. And so the second one, proletarians and communists, essentially, you know, the immediate aim, this is the quote, the immediate aim of the communists is the same as that of all other proletarian parties. Formation of the proletariat into a class, overthrow of the bourgeois supremacy, conquest of political power by the proletariat. And we know also that one of the ideals is in international solidarity. I won't go through all those quotes there because we've got a lot to cover. And of course, we know the 10 measures of the Communist Party in those ideals. So we're talking abolition of property, rents of land to public purposes, heavy graduated income tax, abolition of right of inheritance, confiscation of property from immigrants and rebels, credit centralization to national bank with state capital, centralization of communication and transport. Factories and instruments of production are owned by the state. There's a cultivation and renewal of wastelands and improvement of the environment as a whole. There's an obligation of all to work, industrial armies, especially in agriculture. Those agriculture and manufacturing are combined. We find the abolition of town versus country and an equitable distribution of people across land. Lastly, free education and abolition of factory labor for children. There is traditional education and industrial production, vocational education and training, more or less. So, to wrap that piece up, just so that we remember what's going on, in place of the old bourgeois society with its classes and class antagonisms, we shall have an association in which the free development of each is the condition for the free development of all. And I want to say thank you again to Tyler for his magnificent presentation last week and the opportunity to just kind of revisit that real quick. So in parts 3 and 4, once again, we know that the chapters are socialist and communist literature, and then the communists and pretty much versus the opposition parties. Let's see. So we're going to start with the socialist and communist literature. Essentially, that analyzes the varieties, differences, and it critiques the different forms of socialisms. The positions of the communists in comparison to these ideas discussed from the opposition parties are going to be described in a few slides for chapter 4. So first will be reactionary socialism. that has 4 categories below. Then conservative or bourgeois socialism, and lastly, critical utopian socialism and communism.
Ooh.
So reactionary socialism, just to kind of give kind of a brief idea, it is anti-revolutionary in a different camps of these types of.
So they're going to say reactionary socialism is the difference between reformists and revolutionaries. Reformists are going to be more like the Democratic Socialists of America. They want to use the political process to reform the political process. Revolutionaries are going to be like the Denver Communists, which is who we're watching. They want to abolish the Constitution, abolish the United States government, replace it with something of their own.
Of socialism, you'll have goals to improve societal and political structures. There will be a preservation of one's position in social and economic hierarchies against the bourgeois class, but for one's own advancement, security, or return to prior class conditions and stratifications. That'll be primarily in feudal socialism. In addition to some abstract theory, which we'll find in the German or true socialism. So those 3 are described under there. And we'll begin with feudal socialism. Actually, I do want to state that instead of focusing super highly on the publication and writings of these individual parties, I've kind of examined further the concepts that were put forth by the groups. And so the primary information in the writing were more or less the group's perspective as a whole, because it was more discussed in that way, I believe. So in each slide, I'll briefly kind of mention the literary part of it and the overall philosophy and the reactivity that we find within that struggle against the bourgeoisie. So this feudal socialism basically, to me, feels like a bit of a temper tantrum. It's sort of a resentment of the loss of aristocratic power via the development of the modern bourgeois society. And the lit basically states that feudal socialists, they were French and English aristocrats, published pamphlets having had their power taken, and they were basically incapable of any sort of revolution. And they were frightened by the prospect of a true proletarian revolution. So they failed to recognize that the, quote, modern bourgeoisie society is the necessary offspring of their own form of society, end quote. Actually, I'm going to skip the quote, end quote, because we got 2 more there. The aristocracy took their revenge by singing lampoons on their new master and whispering in his ears sinister prophecies of coming catastrophe. So that would be kind of in the publication of their documents, and kind of goes with this first point here. I don't know if you can see the lovely guiding arrows there, but again, in the first point there, we have a resentment of the loss of their aristocratic power. So in that literature, once again, there's a statement that it is, quote, half lamentation, half lampoon, half echo of the past, half menace of the future, at times by its bitter, witty, and incisive criticism, striking the bourgeoisie to the very heart's core, which I think is a pretty solid compliment. But of course, it is followed with the critique that it is always ludicrous in its effect through total incapacity to comprehend the march of modern history. So because they're unable to surrender to the loss of the feudal systems and aristocratic hierarchies, again, they're sort of just throwing an ineffective temper tantrum. So they're not against the existence of a proletariat, right? Because they had their own feudal system with their own hierarchies and rankings. But they're pissed about the loss of power, and they become, once again, not pissed off or afraid about the existence of workers, but rather revolutionary workers. And that's sort of the kicker there. So for the second one, basically, I would say that there's a quote that states, "So little do they conceal the reactionary character of their criticism that their chief accusation against the bourgeoisie amounts to this, that under the bourgeois regime, a class is being developed which is destined to cut up root and branch the old order of society." And lastly, for part 3 there, what they upbraid the bourgeoisie with is not so much that it creates a proletariat as that it creates a revolutionary proletariat, which was simply already stated. And then I just kind of wanted to make mention of clerical socialism, as it was mentioned in the text. But they're basically talking about, you know, Christian asceticism, and by all appearances, it would be beneficial and it would make
Look
them
at
look
that.
good as good Christians to
Look at the cross with the sickle. That's a little alarming.
be altruistic in their behaviors and to care about other people. So Marx states that it does go hand in hand, and that Christian socialism is but the holy water with which the priest consecrates the heart-burning.
Wait, Jill's back. Jill's back. Leftism may have intellectual roots in social critics. The modern left is although it is true that the academy has some control over the doctrine, even in the I actually don't think this is Jill. I actually think this is a separate retard. You are peddling pseudo-knowledge to a low-information audience who is tricked into believing you are some kind of authority with insider knowledge. Unlike you, I have a master's degree. Bro, I have a PhD. You have a master's degree in engineering? I have a fucking PhD. So you can call me doctor, bitch. Goodbye. What idiots.
Of the aristocrat, which I thought was pretty solid. So on to petty bourgeoisie socialism. Excuse me, bourgeois socialism. I'm a little nervous.
Rock, paper,
I don't know if anybody else
bitch.
likes the zombie thing, but I was kind of into it because the basic point of this, that it all comes down to, is that there is a fear of falling into the proletariat class.
I love that. I haven't had someone pull the, I have a master's degree. As though an expensive piece of paper means anything. And by the way, guys, I would never say that I'm smarter or more educated than anyone else because I have a PhD, because I don't think that's true. I studied a lot on a very, very narrow topic, and I wrote a really big research paper. That's what I did to get a PhD. But if someone wants to come into my chat and go, I'm smarter than you because I have a master's degree, you can call me doctor, bitch. Please.
By the petty bourgeoisie there. So the literature essentially focused on their writings and sided with the proletariat class due to the reality that the majority of the population in places like France was of that class. So they put forth their writings from the standpoint of the intermediate class in their, quote, criticism of the bourgeois regime, the standard of the peasant and petty bourgeois, end quote. So it's a pretty simple, straightforward, camp of thinking in that one. So what is fascinating about this is that they did have a good analysis of some of these inherent flaws of capitalisms and the issues therein. And I'll just go ahead and read this, that it proved incontrovertibly that the disastrous effects of machinery and division of labor, the concentration of capital and land in a few hands, overproduction and crises, it pointed out the inevitable ruin of the petty bourgeois and peasant, the misery of the proletariat, the anarchy in production, the crying inequalities in the distribution of wealth, the industrial war of extermination between nations, the disillusion of old moral bonds, of the old family relations, and the old nationalities. So despite these kind of legitimate recognitions of the destruction of the bourgeois class and capitalism, there are critiques that follow. And I would say...
Wait, they're back! They're back! You should know you have more than a single critic! Who the fuck are you? Let's see, John. John, let's see how many times John has chatted in on my channel. Hang on. Channel activity. Oh! How many people think that this is John's first time chatting in on my channel? Press 1 in the chat if you think that this is John's first time chatting in. Press 2 in the chat if you think that John has been here a million times before and has watched. It's like, what the fuck, asshole? You should know you have more than a single critic, but the rest of us are afraid to comment because you'll ban us. Yeah, you're right. You are getting banned. You've never chatted in on my channel before. I do have a PhD in organizational psychology. You're right. Hey, John, you know what that means? You know what that means, bro? It means I know how to do qualitative research and I know how to analyze social systems, asshole. You have the same routine. Anyone criticizes you. It's exhausting. Then get the fuck out. No one's forcing you to be here. All of us just want to sit and listen to communist analysis of the Communist Manifesto. You are the one that's causing the problem. You are the one that's complaining. You are the one that's getting pissed off that you're getting banned and creating new account after new account after new account. We're literally just trying to sit here and listen to communists, bro. You are the one who's exhausting, and guess what? Now you're banned. Goodbye. God, we are having such a nice day.
That would be quoted as this form of socialism aspires either to restoring the old means of production and of exchange, and with them the old property relations and the old society, or to cramping the modern means of production and of exchange within the framework of the old property by those means. And so that's kind of what makes it reactionary. So moving on to German or true socialism, I have those hands there as it felt like these guys were kind of reaching for something that would be applicable and relevant, yet that was not really possible. So essentially with their literature.
Yeah. The trolls always do say the same things, don't they? Isn't that funny? Isn't it funny how everyone with a new account that comes into my chat to complain always says the same thing? Wow. I just don't know why that could be.
It came down to the fact that it was simply irrelevant to the social conditions of Germany in relation to France, where they got those ideas. Because the struggle against the bourgeois class had been continuing in France, whereas in Germany, they were kind of in the infancy of this struggle. So, quote, when these writings immigrated from France into Germany, French social conditions had not immigrated along with them. And
Isn't it funny? Isn't it funny that Germans, of all people, Germans are considered to be the true socialist, the true communist? Isn't that a funny coincidence? That true communism was in Germany. I wonder who fought true communism in Germany. Was there anyone that fought true communism and true socialism in Germany? Was there any backlash to communism and socialism in Germany?
and assume a pure literary aspect, and I kind of shoved two together there.
Oh, by the way, next week for Christmas, we're doing a Europa marathon next week for Christmas, okay? You guys have wanted this. This is going to be over on Rumble, rumble.com/Carlin. Make sure you subscribe to me on Rumble. I'm not watching this on YouTube. I'll lose my channel. But we are doing a Europa marathon for Christmas, just for all of you, okay? Not on, well, actually, maybe on Christmas Day. Maybe. Europa is a documentary we're not supposed to watch about the worst person in the history of the world. And we're watching it on Rumble. We're watching it on Rumble for something controversial. It's like a 10-hour documentary, a 10+ hour documentary. It's actually really interesting. You guys should all come and watch it. We're doing that next week because I love you and I want you to be happy for the holidays. Merry fucking Christmas.
So yeah, you'll see here, in the third point, just trying to follow along the lines here. So we have the translation and injection of German philosophies, kind of that overlay within the French perspectives within the French Revolution there. And that evolved into a focus on man separate from class conditions. And this is described in the quote stating that the French socialist and communist literature was thus completely emasculated. And since it ceased in the hands of the German to express the struggle of one class with the other, he felt conscious of having overcome, quote, French one-sidedness, end quote, and of representing not true requirements, but the requirements of truth, not the interests of the proletariat, but the interests of human nature, of man in general, who belongs to no class, has no reality, who exists only in the misty realm of philosophical fantasy. And interestingly enough, they have evolved in such a way that they ended up in direct opposition to the, quote, brutally destructive tendency of communism. So that was a pretty interesting little development there. Now to jump into the next section. So we just talked about kind of the more reactive socialism, reactionary socialism. So now section 2 is just kind of talking exclusively about conservative or bourgeois socialism. And this feels pretty relevant to our times, I would say. And it is certainly one of the aspects more infuriating of liberalism in particular, I would say, even though that we wouldn't consider that socialism unless we're talking about democratic socialists. So liberalism seems to be a representation, and the behaviors are relevant, I would say. They're essentially band-aids on societal problems that hide the utter terrorism that is capitalism.
The terrorism.
So it's just kind of like that continuation of the brainwashing of the working class against consciousness and uprising against the bourgeoisie and the social conditions directly due to capitalism. And I think about this summer and kind of the tampering down of the uprising in Denver. You think about State Bill 217, we're talking body cameras and chokeholds and, all of that stuff. So essentially, there's no real desire to discard or create any meaningful change, but rather kind of have these thinly veiled efforts at, providing people what they need through a welfare state and through reformism. So another quote, of course. To this section belong economists, philanthropists, humanitarians, improvers of the condition of the working class, organizers of charity, members of society for the prevention of cruelty to animals, temperance fanatics, hole and corner reformers of every imaginable kind. This form of socialism has, moreover, been worked out into complete systems. And see, once again, I would find that this is completely relatable and relevant to today. And one of the reasons that the second half of the manifesto is not discussed as much is that there's this belief that because it's about some of this literature, it's no longer, relevant to today's social climate, I guess you could say. But this one in particular, I think, is very, very important to examine. At the end, it states that, quote, free trade is for the benefit of the working class, protective duties for the benefit of the working class. This is the last word and the only seriously meant word of bourgeois socialism, end quote. I don't know if anyone's seen Persepolis, but it is an excellent movie. I would highly recommend. So lastly, we're talking about critical utopian socialism and communism. Sort of a belief in a peaceful society where social harmony eliminates class antagonism. So I believe it to be
I don't care what anyone says. This old guy rules. Come on. Can we all just agree? That guy's the best. He's a cult leader of women of some sort. There's obviously a cult-like society that has been created around him. I don't even care. You know what? That old guy living his best life. We should watch at some point. We should watch the documentary about, what the fuck is his name? What is the name of that cult leader guy? What the fuck is his name? Hang on. Zen cult leader. What is his name? I forget his name. Not Jim Jones. It's not Jim Jones. What is his name? Oh, Osho. Osho. We need to watch the documentary about Osho. Osho was fucking crazy. Osho had his own cult, and he had 127 like fancy cars, and he had all these people in his commune. Yes, you know, Wild Wild Country. That documentary is insane. Osho for the win. Osho.
Abstract, fanciful, and in this case, in these times, it was unrealized conditionally. So we find again this mention of a fantastical belief in a new society, improved social conditions for all to, quote, pave the way for the new social gospel, end quote. Again, it was the conditions were undeveloped for class antagonism at this point because there was not much of a direct history behind what was going on. It was sort of a rising matter. So to support that, we have the quote stating, since the development of class antagonism keeps even pace with the development of industry, the economic situation as they find it does not as yet offer to them material conditions for the emancipation of the proletariat. They therefore search after new social science, after new social laws that are to create those conditions, i.e. utopian. So once again, just to kind of revisit that, it was developed early on during the overthrow of the feudal society. So there are three particular failures in that, and that there was a lack of a developed state of the proletariat. There was a lack of fully realized economic conditions that were to be brought about by the bourgeois system, and a lack of, again, just kind of backing up these previous 2 points, a lack of historical initiative or independent political movement. And of course, they were against rising class antagonisms in seeking a social utopia. So on this fourth point here, it's stated that it was developed in the, quote, early attempts of the proletariat to attain its own ends when feudal society was being overthrown, end quote. The proletarian was in an undeveloped state, and the, quote, absence of the economic conditions for its emancipation, conditions that had yet to be produced, end quote, could only come about with the full realization of, quote, impending bourgeois epoch alone, end quote. That was mentioned earlier. Also, quote, the founders of these systems see indeed the class antagonisms as well as the action of the decomposing elements in the prevailing form of society. But the proletariat, as yet in its infancy, offers to them the spectacle of a class without any historical initiative or any independent political movement, as that last point shows there. And once again, it was against the rising class antagonisms that were coming about. So to further that statement, quote, although the originators of these systems were in many respects revolutionary, their disciples have in every case formed mere reactionary sects. They hold fast by...
Should I get a socialist haircut? This is actually what I'm thinking about watching this. I am going to go undercover at another socialist event eventually. Should I just, like, bite the bullet and get a socialist haircut? And do, like, the tiny little bangs? And the shaved head? And the mullet? I don't know. I kind of like my hair right now, if I'm honest about it. My hair hasn't been this long in a while. Should I get a wig? A wig would probably be better. Everyone's like, no, don't do it. I like Reagan. She's like, Carlin, this is a really bad idea. All right, I'm not going to get a socialist haircut. Everyone calm down.
By their original views of their masters in opposition to the progressive historical development of the proletariat. They therefore endeavor to deaden the class struggle and to reconcile the class antagonisms. And,
that'd be funny though, right?
That's a picture of a cult. Also, I just like this graphic. Always have. I don't think it's super relevant to the chapter, but I'm not too worried about it.
The communist
And the last chapter here is the position of the communists in relation to the various existing opposition parties. So this is basically kind of revisiting the goals and perspective of the Communist Party, of the theories of Lenin and Marx, or excuse me, Engels and Marx. And so just to kind of wrap up all of that, essentially that the previous chapter talked about all the ways in which the Communist Party is different from these other socialist parties, the opposition parties. And the arguments are that, you know, it is the fight for the immediate and future aims of the working class with support of all revolutionary movements internationally in varying relevant alliances and united solidarity. So in that chapter, it's talking about the different actions of communists throughout Europe. We talk about Switzerland supporting radicals. In Poland, they're supporting the party that insists on an agrarian revolution for emancipation, talking about what they do in Germany. And they mention that they never cease for a single instant to instill into the working class the clearest possible recognition of the hostile antagonism between bourgeoisie and proletariat. And this is specific to Germany, in order that the German workers may straightway use, as so many weapons against the bourgeoisie, the social and political conditions that the bourgeoisie must necessarily introduce along with its supremacy. And in order that after the fall of the reactionary classes in Germany, the fight against the bourgeoisie itself may immediately begin. So flowing into that, at the time, the Communist Party was essentially focusing most on the revolutionary climate in Germany, because it was essentially stating that they were on their way to a bourgeois revolution, which will be the prelude to an immediately following proletarian revolution. So that's why there was a heavy focus on the German matters as well. But these last couple of pages really tie together the philosophies.
Yo, we got a socialist on our channel? You can get a socialist haircut if you want to. You'll lead a much better life when you realize that as socialists, we just want the best for all people. Listen, I've never painted you as demons. I've actually been extremely fair to socialists and communists. I have said repeatedly that you guys are deluded enough to believe that what you're doing is going to be better for everyone. You're also wrong. What you're doing is going to lead to mass starvation and death, just as it has every single time that you guys have tried to do this in the world. You have literally led, your ideology, bro, has led to the death of 100 million people. Really think about that. It has led to mass starvation and death every single time you've tried to implement it. So, although I do believe you guys have the best intentions, it is ill-considered. You need to think through the consequences of your actions, because your actions are going to kill a lot of fucking people.
Once more of the Communist Party, in stating that the communists disdain to conceal their views and aims. They openly declare that their ends can be attained only by the forcible overthrow of all existing social conditions. We also know, when we were talking earlier about that, revisits chapter 2 that Tyler presented on, as far as the proletariat and the communists, and those points of developing a class of the proletariat, the overthrow of the bourgeois, et cetera, et cetera. So that kind of revisits and reinforces that point. Communists everywhere support every revolutionary movement against the existing social and political order of things. That is a very important point as well. So, of course, these last classics here: let the ruling class tremble at a communist revolution. The proletarians have nothing to lose but their chains. They have a world to win. Working men of all countries, unite.
All right. that's the end of that. I apologize there wasn't more analysis, but as you may have surmised, I'm drunk. I am. That one single beer that you guys voted on did me in. You literally haven't been banned. You stop. See, this is, Wilmer, this is the thing that's wrong with you guys. You guys lie every single time. Every single time you have the opportunity, you lie. No one banned you. No one did that. We said that your ideology was going to lead to mass starvation and death. That's what we said. But you know what? I don't even care. I'm done. I'm going to go do some writing now because I'm a really good writer when I'm drunk, apparently. I will be back at 6 p.m. tomorrow. 6. Different than Monday through Friday. On Saturdays, we do 6 p.m. And that's going to be for Socialism Saturday. We're going to watch some socialism. We might watch that Fat Studies presentation. We might watch something else. I have to decide. But for right now, I bid you adieu. Good night. I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for hanging out. We'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
How are you feeling? How long have you been here?
3 months, May 17th.
And what brought you?
That's difficult to answer.
how is it that playing the piano for people has eventually resulted in your being here in the hospital?
That's difficult to answer.